Got some beats. Is that a little too loud? It's even super loud. Maybe we lower it a little bit? But we want it to be loud once it starts. What do we do? Let me know if the music's too loud. Started playing some music with a Z. Like what you get here in, what is it, strip malls and stuff? Or not strip malls, like nicer malls. Time for the hype train. Very excited. It won't be a tease anymore. Instead of Project TAESER, it'll be Project Revealed SAR. Who else is excited for EU Victoria Edition? Big hype. Someone call an ambulance. Chat, is it happening? It is happening. Will we get a loud car before the announcement starts? Can you guys not hear that? Streamer too loud, can't hear music? Not like this. Time to mute mic. Don't get me wrong, the UI sucks, but you managed to read things both backward and upside down. Wait, what? We'll be catching up on your Civ 7 streams. 80% of the UI bugs are you just being blind. It's easy in hindsight to know what's being blind, though, I must say. You know, because you understand whether or not something's bugged or is a thing. You know what I mean? This channel's so EU-centric. Europe? Imperator Universalis of the Eagles, too. Will it be called EU5? I'm pretty sure it's going to be Sengoku, too, but TOO. My money's on Sengoku, too. Are you excited? Yes or yes? I'm very excited. I'm very excited. So if the marketing starts now and release in 6 months, I don't think I'm allowed to talk about when I think the game will get released. I'm trying to think. I could say there are two things that Paradox generally tries to avoid, which is releasing stuff from different titles right on top of each other, and releasing something right before a vacation. So right before summer break or winter break makes it difficult for them to put out fires if there are some issues. And then also right on top of something else makes it hard for both to do well. Hey, Ethiopia and chill while we wait. We maybe could do Ethiopia and chill. And just mute Victoria. Play a little Ethiopia. I think people are going to be chatting a lot leading up to it. I think we're going to chat. We could do Ethiopia and chill. A pigeon's outside your window? Pod. Mossborn, thank you for the follow, Big Nice. Prediction is going to be named something less Eurocentric. People are predicting Terra Universalis. I still think it's going to be Sengoku too. TOO. China Universalis. That might be the... As the consumer base in China expands, we're going to see more like leaning towards catering to Chinese markets. Universalis, mashallah. So you're saying that Caesar releases on Vic 3 update day? I'm saying that would be... I'm not saying when it's happening, but I'm saying that that would be a silly time to release it. Will you review the upcoming game that gets announced soon? I can't... I will review it as soon as I am able to. Solaris 2 announcement today? Poggers. I just needed to get something about the Ethiopia, the dodo. Should have asked if I will play Ethiopia in the game that must not be announced until it's announced. Mongolia Universalis. If you've seen some of the spoilings on, or like some of the Tinto talks, Great Yuan is absolutely huge, and you have to remember they're Mongolian, right? They can call it whatever they want. as long as the game play is fun. Could you imagine if that's the name? Whatever. Dev takes note, the game is actually Three Kingdoms. I would love so much a Three Kingdoms game on the Clausewitz engine that's like character focused, like somehow a cross between Romance of the Three Kingdoms and CK. Like, I like foam at the mouth at the idea of that type of game. Like, honest to God, like, just like frothing at the mouth. We might do some Age of Empires 2 just to play the Three Kingdoms update, even though I'm really bad at Age of Empires 2 and really self-conscious about, like, anytime you play like an RTS, like, you're just gonna get shit on in the comments. When I was looking at the road costs, there was a solid band, cheap as possible, south of Sahara. Sahara and Trade Empire looks fun. Like a fun run. Like, Mali, or I think there's like a different one that's like more like in the middle of Africa. Hey, I'm Tap, how's it going? Yeah, I have been gone a while. Maybe I should play EU5? Well, we don't know if it's gonna be that. And slam my head into it over and over and make Yuan survive. Hey, Palea, thank you for the 5 Canadian. Anyone knows that Victoria 3 was also announced in May, like 3 years ago? They like their May releases. Victoria 3 years, yippee. Are we past 3 years already, or is it 3 years in October? I know it released in October. Three Kingdoms story is so cool, I agree. I've been like a super Three Kingdoms nerd for like forever. Like, I read the book when I was in elementary school. And not like the abridged version, like the 2,200 page version. You played the Romance 8 remake last year, you said it was a dud. I think it was a dud. It was rough. They're like, they really didn't add much. It was just kind of Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Well, I mean, like, okay, it's a remake, so I guess. They were saying how they're gonna add some stuff, and the stuff they added seemed pretty mid. 3 years since announcement, though? Gotcha. I'm sure we'll get superb Romance of the Three Kingdoms mod after CK China. Yeah, I'm probably gonna play a lot more CK once China gets added. What would your first run be in PC? Probably Mali. I came to buy Dynasty Warrior games, same. But then, like, I played the Romance. I like the Romance of the Three Kingdoms games more. But that is my initial ingress. Hey Ivo, how's it going? Hey man, I enjoy your content. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much. On a side note question, when does Paradox decide to release a new game for the franchise and not just DLCs after the last one? I think it's when they feel that the framework of the previous title can no longer support the updates that they want to do, and it becomes more difficult to get what you want the current game to be able to do it than it does to be able to just make a whole new game. I don't think it's like as like financially oriented. I think it's like more. I think it's easier to keep releasing DLC than it is to release a new title. So financially, it doesn't necessarily make sense. Your mom's major was Chinese history? Yeah, I'm reading, like, Outlaws of the Marsh right now, albeit very slowly. That's also, like, another 4-volume, like, 2,000-page book of Chinese lit. There's, like, 4 really popular Chinese literature books. There's Outlaws of the Marsh, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Journey to the West, and I forget the last one, but the name Red is in it, or Red is in the title. Mali, Ethiopia, right? Yeah, exactly. EU4 could not add new mechanics for the last 2 to 3 years of DLCs, so it needed a refresh. Yeah, like, you just need to... Like, okay, so, Project TAESER... Oh. Project Caesar, right, has dynamic prices. That's not dynamic prices in like a market system, which is like not at all what EU4 could like support. Like, and you can't just like scaffold that onto EU4. Want to take bets on how much Project Caesar is going to cost at launch? I'm guessing 80. I mean, I think that it depends. Like, there's going to be a premium version and a regular version, almost certainly, right? I'm trying to remember what Victoria released as. It'll almost certainly be as expensive or more expensive than Victoria. I'm not well versed in China, like I recognize these titles, but that's about it. I've read more about Persian myths and legends. I've been trying to find, like, historical pieces on... Bro, this music goes hard. Historical pieces on the Middle East. Like, concise summaries of Middle Eastern history, and it's rough. Speaking of which, you plan on trying out Black Myth Wukong? I mean, I kind of thought about it, but, and the way I select video games now isn't even, like, what I think I'll enjoy the most. It's, like, a lot of it's what I think my audience will enjoy watching me play, and I don't think they'd enjoy watching me play, something like Black Wukong. 100, obviously, not 60. In terms of USD, it might be... Well, the US dollar is depreciating right now, so it might be 70 or 80, yeah. Because they operate in euro, right? So it just might... Like, for euro, it might look like what $60 normally is, but, like, in USD, it's like 70 or 80. Oh, it's gone red. Vic 3 was 80 for Grand Edition, 60 for normal in Euro. Generalist PC is too weak for Black Myth Wukong. Oh, the truth hurts. I got more RAM because I got more RAM. I actually got 2 more RAM sticks, and then the fan that's seated on my CPU actually blocks me from using the 4th RAM stick, so it's super scuffed. So I have 3 RAM sticks in there, which is, like, not ideal. Barnes & Noble has that literal title, Persian Myths and Legends. Oh, I want, like, the history, though. It's a collection of translations as well, primary sources, Odyssey-esque. Well, I want specifically history of, like, 900 AD to 1300 AD. Like, the height of the power. I watched a VTuber play 36 hours straight when Wukong came out. It was lit. Bro, VTubers, though, they could go, like, hard and, like, be dead inside. And, like, their avatar just looks like... Maybe I just need an animated generalist and then go hard. Hey, generalist, recently didn't have time to follow your streams, neither your videos. That's good, because I haven't done anything in the last 2 weeks. Check CPU cooler clearance versus RAM height. Not like this. Just download more RAM. Someone sent me the link for that. Used to run 448 RAM sticks. Jesus. GPU is usually the bottleneck. For some things it is. Less so for Paradox games. The CPU is usually the throttle. Bro, this music goes so hard. How hype. Paradox Cycle playing the Stellaris to wait for Vic 3 market, to wait for CK3 Japan, to wait for Project Caesar Yuan Dynasty to wait for. Imperator 2? I think it's gonna be Sengoku 2, but TOO. Which CPU, do you have right now, and what do you plan to get, Ryzen X3D version? I plan on getting a better one, but I have to replace, like, the entire rig, because I need to get a new motherboard, or I want to, because I want to get DDR5 RAM, and, like, I've looked at it repeatedly, and I just, like... I can't find anything I, like, want to super pull the trigger on. 10 minutes. Hopefully they're not using copyrighted music. I would be big sad if they were. I got permission to do the stream, but that's how they get you. They let you co-host their stream, and then they use copyrighted music, and you get bopped. I look forward to the moment Paradox figures out how to make the Clausewitz engine simulate pops on the GPU. Who's going to be the best country to play in Project Caesar, and why will I pick Japan every time it's said? Japan's going to be actually super interesting because you have non-country playables in the daimios. Like, you're unlanded. A general's VTuber should have a shining emanating head from their glorious hand that blinds the audience. Just every once in a while you get lens flare from the top of the, like, avatar. It would be hog. What's this countdown for? It's for the announcement show for Project TAESER. We will no longer be Taized. It'll be Project Revealed. France. I agree. France has got an interesting start position, right? Because they start with a bunch of subjects. You really played OG Sengoku? I did. But yeah, Sengoku got like 0 support. And it was like really bad. I don't know what that was about. Is it a happy Thursday today? Depends on the news, right? It is a happy Thursday today. It's a very happy Thursday. Ottomans, yeah, Ottomans are almost certainly going to be strong. The happiest of Thursdays. What's Project TAESER? Have you not been following? How long will you be streaming for today? It depends on how many people turn out and how many people want to stay after the show is, and also on how long the show is. As long as we have a big view count, we'll stay live. Something like this. 90% of your EU4 games are in Japan. 50% of them are using a new Sugi site. That quote goes hard. Every 100 subscribers removes 10 seconds off the timer. That sounds like fake news. I was so curious for the IO mechanic in paper, give me so much space to do a thing and expand a lot of game. I think that mechanic actually would be super good for simulating companies in like Victorian era. As like these entities that build buildings in other countries and collect money. Sengoku is like CK2 but without all the interesting stuff. Yeah, I mean it's like reskin CK for Japan, but it just never got any support. Got a polder, got a trait, got spice, got rice. What counts as a big audience? I mean for me over 200, which is what we have right now, is big. Check the screenshot channel quickly? Or do I have to... Oh! Big nice. It arrived! Very dapper looking plushie. Nice, nice, nice. Your computer desk is way more neat than mine. You're worried about the Papal States? Or Papal? I forget which pronunciation's correct. I always get that wrong. Elwa's door? Thank you for the follow, Big Nine. Whoa, 5 minutes! Chat. You're worried about Cardinals being just a building. I hope there's more there. I think it gives you interactions with the I forget what the name of it. Is it an international organization? But I can't remember. 189 viewers and only 5 likes. Not like this. I fell off. I need a generous reveal emoji on here. What's your PR deadlift at? 600 pounds. It's on my lifting channel. I know 600 pounds sounds like a made-up number, but it's like actual 600 even. Usually when you ask someone their PR and it's like a flat, rounded 100-pound mark, you're just like, this guy's a liar. PayPal states? PayPal? Okay, thank you. Hey Elliot, welcome to the stream. I just pronounce it both in the videos and then people accuse me of trying to farm, what is it, interactions via mispronouncing stuff. That's like one of the more wild things, like in the comment section. I've had people just vehemently like say, you mispronounce things just to get engagement, you like son of a bitch. And I'm like, well, first of all, that's engagement, but second of all, so like you're just like playing into the thing you purport to despise. But second of all, like, bro, have you tried pronouncing everything correctly on a global scale while trying to keep track of your thoughts and try and be engaging? Like, it's so hard to try and do. Hey Melvin, how's it going? 1 rep max? Yeah, only for a single. How long has bro been lifting? I've had a lot of on and off, but my training age in total is probably like 12 years or something. Tinto said Catholics could just build a cathedral at Cardinal. I'll see how the Pope appears to influence that. Yeah, my squat is probably my most impressive lift. That I think is either 675 or 685. Greetings from Frankfurt. Hey Nazim. Streaming mind is a thing, yeah. Like, before I did it, like, I didn't have an appreciation for how, what the streamer was doing was, like, multitasking. Like, until, like, I really did it. Because you're, like, you're playing the game, and you're trying to interact with the audience and maintain, to some degree of performance that is not just playing the game, but at the same time you're trying to talk. And this is, like, 3 things all at once, and you do all of them way worse than if you're doing them solo. You became the very thing you swore to destroy. Yeah, exactly. You became the engagement. I mean, I've had some people, like, just, like, I don't know, when people just, like, hard enter and they're like, you son of a bitch, I'm unsubscribing, or, like, I'm never watching your stuff again. Usually it has more to do with them than it does with you, or at least that's my opinion on that. But maybe that's just because I've never done anything horrible that I've gotten caught for. I just started strength training about 6 months ago. The newbie gains are so nice. You just like come into the gym and you're like, you could squat 10 pounds more every time. And an avid reader, I don't know how to pronounce anything. Yeah. We're probably going to read the chat a bit less once this starts in a minute, and mainly just watch. Project Caesar should be something else than an EU5 trailer. Well, it's gonna be Sengoku too, but not TWO, TOO. Oh! 30 seconds, boys. Boys and girls. There's some girls in the chat. Who's ready? Yeah, I'm gonna try and keep the comments relatively low. How dare you pronounce it Caesar instead of Caesar, basically. I've had someone correct my Kaiser pronunciation, that it's more Geyser, but, like, yeah. Project TAESER.
Hello everyone, I'm Johan Andersson. I'm the studio manager of Paradox Tinto and the creative lead for Project TAESER. We've been teasing you guys about this project for over a year now, and now it's finally time to reveal what this is all about.
Let's go. Let's go.
With each stroke of the brush, the landscape unfolds.
Can you imagine they play an ad right now?
A path is carved through history. Ambition, once ignited, pushes forward and can never be tamed. With every line, a new horizon.
Actual in-game footage is actually an ARPG about being on a boat.
The landscape changes, but the drive remains. Painting with the sharp reds of revolution and the black ash.
You were playing an ad right now? I'm sorry. I don't control when they play the ads.
Legacy is forged of the chosen, tracing the silhouettes of warriors. With the final stroke, like fire across the landscape. Never before has the canvas stretched so far. Europa Universalis 5. Be ambitious.
No one saw that coming. Oh, boy. Oh. Let's go, let's go.
Yo, it's finally happening. How does it feel?
I don't have words to describe how
Oh,
excited
what a cool
I am about
soundtrack.
this. This is gonna be so good.
So I'm an EU4 player with 5,000 hours. How
Rookie
different of an
numbers.
experience is this going to be for me?
It's not like playing a new expansion. We've tried to change mechanics at every single place. Everything's going to be new. I would say throw away the
Wade
5,000
looking
hours,
dapper.
but it's still going to be some things.
So you and the team have been working on this for a very long time. How happy have you been with progress?
Does this bar go to 11?
It can if you want.
Yeah, well,
So very happy.
yeah, I'm super happy. It's like my team is among the best people I've ever worked with. They're been recruiting people a lot from the community
Seriously.
and with people with a lot of experience, and to be so great. And the amount of history and the amount of mechanics and everything we got into the game is beyond what I dreamed of when we started.
Do you have like a single word in mind to describe the idea behind what you're trying to achieve?
Ambitious, is that a good word? to
Ambitious
use?
is a very good use.
Yeah, I would just describe the game as we set out very ambitious, and it's a game where you can do pretty much everything. in the
Everything.
game. Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how I want to play it, there's something for me to do.
Yeah, it's like if you want to play a Hanseatic trader nation, you can do that, just focusing on trade. Or if you want to relive the Ottoman Empire's expansion as a militaristic country, you can do that. Or if you just want to sit and play
Map
as
guy
your
is chill.
small country somewhere and just get through history, you
You
can
have
do
to talk
that.
to him as
So the world itself is something that's alive.
Yeah, I think that's the best description of the game. We're trying to feel like a game where it shouldn't feel like a game. It should feel like you actually are the country and playing that country through history and guiding it.
And how important would you say the community has been to the development of this game?
Well, Slave Empire? Maybe.
I don't think there's word that I can describe how important they are, because part of my team is built from the community. We have been talking for over a year in various ways, like asking for feedback about the game. Because if there's one thing these 30 years have taught me, is that the community is vital for making a good game. You can't just sit on your own and code something.
Well, Johan, I think I'm ready. Tell me everything there is to know.
How much time do you have?
It's 5,000 hours in EU4, I can spend a little more.
Yeah, well, I brought a bunch of developers that are more knowledgeable about the details of the game than I am, and they're in the castle up here ahead.
Well, let's go find them.
Yes, let's do.
Steam has not mentioned a release date at this point, neither has the stream.
Welcome to Skogkloster Slot. The servant here will take care of your
Ambitious is kind of a concerning word coming from Paradox. Yeah.
So what happens now? Where should I go?
Well, my journey here
Performance
is
becomes the
over,
concern.
but in this castle there's a lot of developers that will give you all the information you need. But you need to take this to Eric. He will know what to do with it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and good luck on your journey.
This doesn't look like a Spanish castle. I could be wrong. Did they say where it was? They might have when I was reading chat. I should maybe pay more attention to the
Before
streams
this
in
castle
chat.
was built in 1654, this was just a remote slice of land, a blank canvas. The man who built this castle had been in dozens of them before, but he thought to himself, I can build one even better. You've loved and you've lived Europa Universalis, but parrots have thought to themselves, we can build one even bigger and even better. Today, I'm going to take you on a journey to discover how they've done just that with Europa Universalis 5.
He called it Schloss. Oh, okay, so it's
The first historical relic on our journey is Dave.
Sweden.
Hi, Dave.
Oh, hi Leif. Welcome to the workshop.
It's a great workshop. So this room feels like a pretty good metaphor for the start of game development. How do you even begin with a project as ambitious as Europa Universalis 5?
Well, we started 5 years ago by building a new studio in Spain, specifically to make the project. So we hired modders, we hired super fans, we hired the best developers from around the world, specifically to make this
Will I
project.
be in the video?
So
I
once
wouldn't
you've
be able to
assembled
reveal
this
that.
great team, where do you go from that? What's your first starting point?
It starts with a vision, and that vision came from Johan, and it was, I want to make the grandest strategy game. That includes everything from having, from being the most immersive game we could possibly make, having a living world where everything feels like it's impacting something else.
So you've taken all the buzzwords, you've gone historically accurate, dynamism, you want immersion. How do you take those ideas and put them into a game?
That's a tricky question. Well, one of the things you start with is making concept art, so we can decide how everything looks and feels.
What's
Big
the first
true.
mechanic that comes to mind? What do you start with?
Pops, which are population groups, groups of people. So, for example, people of the same culture and religion band together into a single unit, and they can be anything from just one person to a million people. One of these units.
So a single person to multiple millions and millions. So we're simulating hundreds of millions at the start of the game.
We're simulating every person who was alive in 1337.
That's a lot of people.
Yes.
A lot of them died when
So
the Black
population
Plague
system
came.
is tied into everything that you do. How do I get more of them?
With food production. So the more food you produce, the more surplus you have, which increases your population growth. And then, of course, the reverse is true. If they're starving, you're going to lose a lot of pops.
So we're modeling individuals being born, working, dying. I'm assuming they're also going to stratify throughout society. What does that look like?
Yeah, so each pop has a type, a sort of social class, which could be, of course, nobility, burghers, peasants. They all have different jobs, depending on which class they're in, and they also belong to different estates in your government.
So what's an estate? What do they do?
An estate is a group of pops who have a political agenda. Now, most countries have the nobility, burghers, clergy, and peasants. And basically, they all have their own privileges that you give them and can take away from them. You can also sort them by social class. So, for example, clergymen are in a different group from nobility.
And that would be the estate system.
It ties into the estate system, yes.
How does the estate system work?
So your pops organize into estates which have their own agenda. They have their own ideas of how they want to run the country.
What if the nobility decide they want something different to me? Can they just go off and do it?
It depends. If you give them the right privileges, you might give them the ability to build their own fortifications or allow your peasants to arm themselves.
So regardless of if I want it, if I've given them that privilege, they're going to go and do it. And I'm assuming
Yes.
that if their agendas and my agenda line up, that's going to benefit me quite nicely.
But they don't always line up. That's the rub.
Estates building stuff, let's go.
What is a privilege? You mentioned nobility building forts. What does that look like in terms of other privileges, like with the clergy?
So you could, for example, give your burghers control over the coinage. It's all about give and take. You almost never want to give them a privilege,
Make three
but
references.
sometimes
That's what people
it
are here
becomes
for.
necessary.
So give me a context in which it's necessary. Why would I give out a privilege?
Maybe you want to pass something through Parliament, and the nobility say, we'll only let that if you give us this privilege.
If the inverse happens, their agenda doesn't align with me, I need to either bring them under control or pacify them.
Yes, if you're feeling confident, you can remove privileges from an estate, but you need to be sure that you're in a good position to do that.
So it's a constant balance. I need to make sure that they're happy, but not too powerful that they can take me out.
Yes, exactly.
Fantastic. So if I manage to do everything correctly, what does that look like?
If you have a happy populace, happy estates, you have a prosperous nation, and that will allow you to go from this to this.
Well, I've done quite well for myself.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
I actually played a little bit of Mayu and Taxes, but I would read a book during the end year ticks because it would take my computer like 5 to 10 minutes.
Stretches from 1337 to 1837. That's 500 years of history. A lot happens in that time period. Talk me through how the game changes to reflect the changes in history.
So we've divided the era into 6 different ages, and inside those ages we have different institutions, so that every slice of 100 years or so feels different from the previous one or the next one. Is much more about medieval fiefdoms and this sort of old order. But by the end of the game, you have the Industrial Revolution. Prices of coal go up. People are using more modern technology.
Let's talk technologies. These more modern technologies you're speaking about. How does the technology system in the game work?
So once you've embraced an institution, that unlocks a brand new technology tree. And players can choose to go down that list and unlock specific things from that tree.
So you mentioned institutions. What exactly are they?
Someone clip that.
So an institution is an idea that spreads. For example, it could be the quest for the new world, which changes the way that you can explore.
Actual in-game footage. So the Pope just dropped?
So exploration
Not again.
was a big thing during this era. I'm assuming that's also modeled in the game.
Yes.
How does that work?
So once you reach the age of discovery, you might want to start looking over the oceans and to decide to colonize.
That's how we
distant
knew it
lands.
was EU5.
So colonization then, how
was
does
the
that
reveal
work?
of the
So any
wooden
country
maps.
can colonize, and it's a lot easier if you have Quest for the New World institution embraced. But colonization essentially allows you to
There's a guy named Leif.
take unclaimed territory and absorb it into your empire.
So any country can colonize. I don't have to be a specific nation to colonize.
Exactly.
How different does
White
gameplay
smoke?
vary from place to
Pog.
place?
The games vary quite a lot depending on which country you choose. You're impacted so much by your setup, what pops you have, what terrain you have, and what neighbors you have. That every playthrough is going to be different if you're playing with France against Flanders.
What is
But I'm
that
not
fruit
locked
on
in,
Leif's
am I?
plate?
I can take the starting position of
The
France and
big-ass
go
one.
wherever I want with it. I could colonize, I could fight, I could focus on the economy, I could focus on trade.
Exactly. It's not railroaded. You can choose which path you want. So you can take France as a
Does anyone know what
big
fruit that
trading
is?
nation, or you could just conquer your neighbors.
So the big takeaway is that it is a living world.
Exactly.
But in order to achieve what we've been talking about, to do any of the scenarios we've gone through, I have to take care of my population, right?
Exactly. Your population influences every decision you take. Your population is your economy, and your economy is your population. So you have to look after them if you want to lead your country to wealth.
Number one resource is
Here's to wealth.
souls.
To wealth?
To wealth, they say, right before the Black Death. Game was designed in 2020 is when they started working on it. the context of the pandemic informed where their
Every
choice
game
of start
needs a
date
solid
was.
framework, and EU5 will
Right
have
before a
just
bunch of
that.
people dropped
The
dead.
population mechanic will be at the heart of everything that you do, and if you manage it carefully, you will be rewarded with a prosperous realm. Hundreds of millions of people are going to be simulated in a
Why
fully
weren't you in
dynamic
this trailer?
living world. But
Who says
what does
I'm
that
not?
actually mean? Let's go to the library to find out.
Tiny durian? This music is way more chill than the music like 3 minutes before they went live.
Roger!
This is a library.
That's going to complicate the interview.
Fair enough.
Can you tell me about the living world?
Living world means that things don't come out of nothing. It's the population that live in the locations which produce the goods by working in the resource gathering operations, or RGO for short. And then those goods are used in other buildings.
What are those? How do I build them? How do I use them?
Buildings are in locations, and there are many types of buildings that all of them do different things. But in general, they will take resources to maintain, to build, and some of them will produce other types of goods. And they will employ the population to do that.
What
I don't think
do
they've
with those
commented on
goods?
mission trees yet.
All the goods produced, both raw resources and refined goods, go into the market. And from there, they are used to supply the needs of the population and the needs of the buildings.
So, what is a market? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a difficult
Here's your
concept.
answer, Scrooge.
Imagine you're playing as England, for example. You have a market center in London, and that would attract the locations around it to the London market. Locations will be pooled towards one market or another, depending on the conditions, and all the locations belonging to a market will get the resources from that market.
So if another market has something that I don't have, I can trade for it.
Yes, exactly. If you need some good in your market that you don't have access to, you'll have to make a trade deal between any two markets that you have access to.
Let's say a location is in the market of Scandinavia, let's call it. Is that permanent, or can they shift?
No, markets are completely dynamic. Every location will belong to a market or another market depending on different factors, and markets themselves can be created and destroyed completely freely. Well, freely. They have a cost.
New contest
So I,
system
as a
called
player,
journal
can
entries,
both create
not
and
like
destroy
this.
markets
Yes,
under
you
my
can-
control.
Yes, you can create your own market if you are, for example, if you are playing as Sweden and you don't have a market because you're trading in the market of Lübeck, for example, and you see it more beneficial for you to have a market in Stockholm. You can create a market in Stockholm.
So, in this Stockholm market, let's say I wanted something like legumes. How could I get it if it wasn't already in my market?
Beans.
If you want some good that's not in your market, then you'll have to make a trade deal. A country can make a trade deal between any two markets that they have access to, and that would move the goods from the stockpile of that market to the market you're moving.
So if I'm Sweden, I can have Danish provinces in my location.
Yes, the goods produced
Controversial.
in the Danish locations will be used in your market.
So if I'm buying goods and selling goods, what determines the price of those goods?
Trade deals have a cost based on the distance between the markets and also depending on the price of the specific good. Each good have a base price, and also it will be modified depending on basically supply and demand between the different markets they are being traded. So if a good is very abundant in a market, it will be cheap, and if it's not that abundant or basically scarce, it will be expensive.
So profitable
How do I get the money
opportunities for
to then
buildings
buy goods
is
at a loss?
dynamic.
Countries can gain income from a variety of sources, but the main one is basically taxing your population. However, you won't be able to completely tax all your population because it will depend on the
Oh,
control.
we're gonna talk about
on the
control.
locations.
Let's go.
So what's control?
Control is an indicative or basically the amount of power that your country has in a location, and it will irradiate from your capital. You have your cabinet to increase control if you want.
How can I gather more taxes from like a location?
But the main tool that the countries have at their disposal is the cabinet.
That gives me an idea. Thanks, Roger.
Cabinet.
So Roger has just told us about the living world, dynamic markets, and how to build a prosperous nation.
So it's
All I heard was
market to
newly conquered
market.
territories.
Scrooge, yeah.
Let's head to the armory.
So hyped for the system, me too. How do merchant republics make money? I can't remember if they've said how you generate money through trade yet on the Tinto talks. So I think we will find
Eric.
out.
Welcome
I thought
to
that
the
was going to
Thank
be
you.
the other Eric.
I've been given this map.
This is different Eric.
I think it's finally time we show them.
Let's do that.
White smoke. New Pope just dropped. Second biggest news of today.
This is a map of 1337, but how accurate is it?
Well, Leith, I would say this is the most accurate and granular map we ever made for a grand strategy game.
There's so many
So you're
locations
going to need
on
to
the
take me
map.
through this beautiful map here. How important is historical accuracy to something like this?
I think it's
I'm
like
glad you asked.
10 to
because
20x.
Basically, the map we're starting in
EU4.
1337, I would say we made a huge effort in making it as accurate and granular as possible, which that obviously has its challenges. For example, in the warfare end of things, since now the diversity geographically wise is huge, so a lot of things can impact the outcome of a war. So basically what we are talking here is that, for example, let's say if you had a military campaign in something around the Caucasus area over here with Armenia and the potential rise of Ottomans and this part of the world, what you would encounter is that it's a very steep place with sort of very thin areas to go through, and that obviously you might feel it like it's an opportunity, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a trap. It's a huge trap. By that, which I mean is that things like, let's say, rivers, mountains, straits, those definitely can define the outcome of a battle and potentially the outcome of a war. So you have to be very careful with how
Mountains
you treat
become
your
impassable in
movement of
winter.
troops in the map.
So before we
So
even
you can
get
get
to
trapped
war,
on the
what
wrong
kind
side?
of preparations do I need to make
They haven't given a
to
release date.
supply my armies?
I would say, first of all, that going into a war is not easy at all. And yeah, you can be challenged in case they declare to you if you are not prepared. In case you are the one that wants to be the aggressor, I would say that the first thing to consider is building a war chest. That would be for starters. But also you have to be very careful with the production game loop. of
They haven't
things.
talked about
Because
genocide
at
options,
starting date,
but Black Death will kill a lot of
basically
people.
You rely a lot into raising levies, and those levies come from
It's
population.
EU5.
And the thing is that this population is the one that's responsible for the outcome of your buildings. So what I'm saying here is that when you start a campaign in 1337 and you raise all your levies, you're making your buildings empty. Part
I
of them.
see. So you're telling me that if I raise all of my levies, get into a bad battle, and my army gets wiped out, I'm also
No.
wiping out all of my populations at home, so there's no one to work in the fields and all the buildings.
We can't kill the workers,
That is
no.
correct.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about military objectives, what are some of those
They
military
have
objectives?
freezing
Can I tell an army to go
seas,
siege? Can I tell an
K-pop.
army to go engage other armies? How does that work?
Definitely. Like, for starters, there
So you
would
can
be
walk over
one
it.
of the most used, I assume, is going to be the carpet siege, which basically is the one that allows you to make a lot of your armies go straight towards
1337
the
is the
forts
start
of
date,
your
yeah.
enemy. So you don't need to be micromanaging on that regard. And that obviously has its pros and its cons. Like, let's say you are too lightly on these tools and you use them a bit too much, maybe you are not defending your own country, because there is a military objective to defend your own lands or to call everyone back to defend.
the
But if you are
meatiest
just
start
using the
date.
tools in an aggressive way, it's probably gonna screw you up when it comes to the enemy.
So let's say, hypothetically, I am an Englishman,
Yes.
and I want to press my rightful claim on the
Hypothetically.
throne of France. Can I use my superior navy and sailing ability
Definitely, definitely, 100%. Like, navies in EU5 are meant to be, first of all, for movement of troops. That is a huge thing that helps the troops to move around, but also it supplies nearby armies. So that would be something to take into account. I would also add to this that if you, as an Englishman, start, let's say you go with another one, and you go here, and you start going deep into French territory, thanks to your navies, basically, what you would get is that a lot of the locations in France, when you occupy them, you can basically get their food.
So I can live off the land in France?
Yes.
Ideally.
That's the thing. And also, like, it goes both ways, because you get the food of the enemy, and that means the enemy doesn't get that food. So that is pretty good for your outcome.
So you mentioned that wars are won and lost according to your economy if you're out too long.
You can't transport ships.
How do I win a battle?
Or troops on stuff other
Winning
than
a
ships.
battle can be decided by a lot of factors.
Transports
First of
are just way
all,
better.
The most usual one, if you have the biggest army, you probably will win. But the thing is that this game doesn't assure you that.
So the different factors are size of the army,
yes,
professionalism of the army,
yes,
the general, the terrain,
yes,
and beyond.
Yeah, I would say supplying your army with food. If an army has low morale due to low food supply, then it's another factor to consider. An
So
army,
if they're starving to death, they can't fight.
basically that.
So what are the potential ramifications of starvation then?
That your entire army could die of starvation, which would be a very bad outcome, I would say so. And that means probably that the enemy will be super happy about it. So, but yeah, in order to supply your army, you would have to consider, first of all, supply depots. That's something you have to get.
This might be your biggest stream yet.
in
I got
order to-
1,000.
Especially if your campaign is long and you are very deep into the enemy land. And
on
there's some countries
1.7.
here that I would say are huge in terms of territory. Let's say you start as Morocco and you want to invade Castile. So the more
look at
you
the
get
map,
into
bros.
the specific territory, the more
That's a
you
lot
might
of
be
forts.
punished unless you prepare fine with it.
So
But-
if I'm Tunisian,
There's
Yes.
supply
I want
lines.
to invade Castile,
Yes.
the
What do
deeper
you
I go,
mean,
the more
if
I need to
Lade?
consider supply because I could be cut
Blade
off.
is Tunisian.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But not only that, because if you don't make sure that your own country is safe
Who's to say I'm
in
not
terms
in the
of
video later?
occupations, then you could face another problem, which is that your enemy cuts down your supply. And that would mean that at the end, you wouldn't get that much needed food.
Let's say I have a weaker economy than my opponent. They're going to win. Am I able to secure quick tactical victories in order to beat my opponent? How can I take their resources away from
Paradox
them?
hates generalists.
Well,
not like
that's
this.
a very good question because there's a lot of opportunities. For once, the map we have in this game allows you to browse very carefully which enemy locations might
Standing
be
armies
producing,
will come later,
on the
generally,
land, the
and
goods
be
that are
more
meant to supply their units.
conscripts,
So I guess a
initially.
smart choice. Let's, for example, choose the Golden Horde. So Golden Horde relies heavily on horses, as we all know. So if you detect the places that have
Are you
horses in
power
it,
later in the video?
and you are quick enough to occupy those,
Maybe.
you're basically decreasing their chances to build up their ranks once they have some losses, and that would benefit you a lot. That also would include other types of factors, like, let's say, if you are occupying a location that is meant to be a huge food
Because Lade
supply
has
for
more
your
hair, not
enemy,
like this.
then you are doing a very good strategy because you are cutting them down as well. Actually, the magic of this granularity, that it allows you to, if that country is facing other wars, or if that country is just having an internal problem with the managing of their supplies, then you have an opportunity there. So yeah, I would say that if you are using a small country, you're playing a small country, you might have a chance to succeed.
So it's
Will there be a
less about the size
spreadsheet
the
section of the
golden
video?
fight and more
We'll,
about
we'll
how much
talk
food is in
after
his
the
food
video.
bowl.
Yeah, that I would say that. Yes.
Nice.
There's many ways to punish your enemy. Another good option, obviously, but that even comes from EU4 times, although in this case I would say it's harder, would be to occupy the capital. When you occupy the capital of the enemy, basically you are
The victor.
yeah.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for
You
all
cut
that
off the head.
fantastic information, but I have just one more
Do you have
question
contract
for
stuff to not talk about certain stuff?
How many princes are there in the HRE?
I'll answer the question in a minute. How many princes in the HRE? Voltaire's nightmare.
So Eric left before I could get all the answers that I wanted, but fortunately I know somewhere else that I can seek guidance.
I can see EU5 team selling to Vic 3 saying, we stole your guy. The Vic 3 team hasn't used me for anything yet. So... And I've gone to Suez to meet with Tinto.
Forgive me, random church bench dev, for I have sinned.
There will be some screenshots on Steam page. Will we look at them? We will be doing something after this ends, yeah?
I have a question about fates.
About your faith?
No, about fates in the game.
Oh, well, that I can help you with. We do have around 300 faiths in the game. There's, for example, Catholicism, there's Buddhism, there's Zoroastrianism, there's Shintoism, and plenty of faiths.
And do they have their own unique mechanics?
Yes, everyone has own unique set of mechanics.
Lemon Cake said the NDA would run out in half an hour
I'm
ago.
assuming
Rookie
all these
mistake.
different pops have varieties of different faiths.
Thinking
Yes,
that he knew
each
how
pop will belong
long
to a
this
specific
predetermined video would
faith. And
last.
in your country there could be pops
Rookie
of
mistake.
many diverse faiths that you will have to interact with, and they could be perfectly happy, but they could also be unhappy when their different faith could become a problem for you.
So if there's a pop that has the same faith as me, they're perfectly happy.
Not necessarily. They can be perfectly unhappy while sharing your own faith.
Great.
You will have a lot of minorities, both of culture and of faith in your country at all times, mostly. And what you can do about them is, well, you can convert and assimilate them, or you could tolerate and accept those cultures and those faiths.
You mentioned that I can tolerate them. Does that mean that I can have a fully tolerant society, tolerating all minorities?
Yes, if you're particularly humanist, that's definitely a goal to strive towards.
So you're saying, what does that mean? How does one become humanist?
Well, humanism is a societal value in the game, which is opposed to spiritualism.
Louis already
And
dropped the
spiritualist
video.
countries would have it, for example, easier to convert and assimilate. And it's one of dozens of societal values that we have in the game. For example, you could be more innovative, or you could be more traditionalist, or you could focus your army, for example, on quantity or on quality, but you can't do both.
Can you give me an example of a major situation that would impact my societal values?
Well, there's one which will come fairly early on in the game, which is the Black Death, which will happen around like 10, 15 years after the
Sinister
game starts,
music.
and will affect
The Black
the
Death.
majority of the globe.
What can I do to lessen the impact of the Black Death?
Well,
Quill and
you can try
Slavic as well.
different things. You can try to build hospitals. You can
We're supposed to wait
maybe
till after the
establish a
stream.
quarantine, procure remedies, but, well, I hope you find solace in faith. Good luck.
Let me check something.
Our tour today is at an end, but it's just the start of our grandest journey yet. We'll find out whether your reign will be known as a glorious golden age or for carnage and chaos. Will you carve your name into history or be a mere footnote in someone else's chapter? In Europa Universalis 5, anything is possible. History is yours to write. One final piece of advice.
Just kidding.
Be ambitious.
We got the go. They told us that we could start early, but then they told us to wait until the end of the stream. So I got early access. I just released a video. That's where I've been the past 2 weeks. I have over 220 hours in the game. And I have a video. If anyone has questions, we can do questions a little bit. Is that it? They're not going to play us music for forever? And then they're dropping the playlist with a bunch of other creators. So, where's the gameplay? Not like this. I'll link mine video.
What are you doing, Mommy?
Not like this, not the advertisement. Showing a scary movie. Which regions have we played? I played Yuan, Castile, Mali, Korea, Milan. My deep runs were with Milan. Let's see. Let's change the name. EU5 confirmed. But yeah, they told us that we could release. How do you have more than 35 hours in a game? Not like this. I have over 36 hours. You have over 200 hours in just 14 days? That sounds very positive. I uber no-lifed this game. Like, I slept less than 6 hours a day, and I averaged like over 17 hours a day. No release date though. Maybe we should hop on EU4 while we answer questions, or we could just answer questions. But yeah, we could also look at my video, but then people won't watch my video. Not like this. At 13:37 hours, you will complete the tutorials. Are there missions not currently implemented? The version I got was like it's definitely like a pre-release version. Like there was a you can tell it's not yet like released. What's the feature you like the most? I really like that they implemented like dynamic prices and markets and this type of stuff. Like, I'm super excited about that. How was the performance? Not very good, but I also had less than the recommended amount of RAM. But there is, like, currently a memory leak in the version that I received. So, a lot of my 220 hours are spent in the loading screen, because I would have to restart the game every 2 to 3 hours. What a troll to hop on EU4 after the EU5 announcement, basically. Can we show the Steam page? Maybe we show the Steam page for EU5 here. I don't think I could play the soundtracks. I would play the soundtracks, but I think that was a no-no. Let's go to the store page. You know what we can? So what soundtrack we can play though? We can play the EU4 one. And then let's pull up the Steam page. Surely I can search EU5 and find it, right? But yeah, the memory leak, the recommended specs is 32 gigs of RAM, and I had 24. So was playing different nations distinct enough, or was there not enough flavor? There was a solid amount. Some of the flavor had not been implemented on all the countries. Basically, the version I got was like a framework. Before going into playing it and after, I now think the release date is later than I thought it was going in. Is there loyalty of characters? No. Is it better than Victoria 3? I think so. My RAM was 24 gigs, the recommended is 32, but it doesn't matter if there's a leak. Like, eventually a leak just becomes so big that everyone has to restart. How much experience with the EU4 would you say you need? The game does, is the game different enough that it doesn't matter what your level of EU4 experience was? Well, for the economics, it doesn't matter. Like, the economics is so different. Like, EU4 economics is, like, so baby. Like, in terms of, like, you just stack modifiers and, like, it's not, like, very dynamic. It's a dangerous strategy. I know a ton of fans who only engage with the official stuff and don't do any creative stuff. I only watch Generalist, Pog. Can you play EU5? I played 220 hours of it. 32 gigs, that's a lot of RAM. Yeah, it'll, like, the minimum is going to be 16, but recommend is 32. So, or that's what we were told by Johan, but even if I had 32, I would still have to restart the game because of leak. Oh no, it's next year? Yeah, I can't, like, comment specifically on when I specifically think it'll be, but the game seemed... I really enjoy the framework. It seemed much more like a framework and much less completed. Like, in our video, we could only show the first 100 years, and part of that is because... they want to tease out more of the later game content as time goes, but also part of it's because the later stuff is a little undercooked. How much storage does it take? I forget how much storage it was. What's the military system? Fronts or unit stacks? Unit stacks. Is it fun? I had a lot of fun. I also, like, it started to feel grindy at the end, but I was trying to push as many hours as I could because my access is now revoked. So, I have, like, I played over 17 hours a day on average for the past 14 days. People don't understand that you can trade in EU4. Imagine whining for in EU5. I think I focused too much on the economics in my teaser video. What's the processor? Ryzen 5600 is what I got. I had to run on low settings and stuff like this. Will they have K in the unit stacks? I can't remember if they had K. I imagine once they get big enough, yeah. They have, like, levies, and levies are, like, 10 to 1, as valuable as, like, a regular. So, just based on the number of units in a stack, it's really hard to tell how strong they are in the first, like, 50 years, when people use a lot of levies. But then once everyone switches more to, like, professional armies, it becomes easier. Did you play around colonization? I colonized as Mali, Milan, and Korea, yeah. Is the game, is it appropriate for children under the age of 37? No. 17 hours a day is insane, yeah. I, like, 100%, like, no-lifed it. I've never no-lifed something more. Here, I can show the screenshot of my final hours on the Discord. I'll put it in the screenshot section. $227 hours in 2 weeks. I, like, ate in front of the computer and everything. Is the Black Death fun to deal with, or will it get old fast? Black Death is so insane. Like, so the Black Death, like, you just, 10 years into every single run, you just get absolutely kicked in the nuts and half your pops die, and your economy just collapses. It's, like, the wildest thing, and it's every single run, every time. So, like, Black Death is super rough. That's just a Victoria 3 mod, or is this EU5? We're looking at EU5. Colonization, you can colonize as anyone. It gets a lot faster in the next age, and a lot of the techs are in the age of discovery. I'm curious your initial thoughts on the game. Like, since comparing this to Vic 3 when you played it during the early stages like this. So first of all, the game is definitely not finished. But, like, the framework for the game, I was really impressed with. I think that in terms of the economics, Vic 3, everything's more tied down than EU5. But EU5 is doing more stuff. Like, it's doing more relationships. Like, Vic 3, everything's, like... Here's a way of maybe thinking about it. Vic 3 is, like, classical music. Everything's harmonious. And, like, EU5's maybe more like rock, where, like, overall it's more interesting. Because there's more stuff. Are levies called out for the actual farmers? They're exclusively separate pops. No, your people working in buildings get levied. And so you could collapse your economy by killing too many of your levies. What nations did you play? I played... the ones I did deep runs with were Milan, Mali, and Korea. But I played like half a dozen other countries. What are the 4 things left to the percentage mean? I'm not sure what the percent is. What's the top left 4 boxes of the percentage man is? Are you talking about up here? The gold, stability, this is pops, this is, that's not prestige, this is prestige, this is legitimacy, this is diplo, this is, your war exhaustion, this is manpower, and this is sailors. When you said you no-lifed it, how much of that was because you were trying to get a video done, or is that really addicting? I wanted to learn as much as I could on the game as possible. So it was trying to learn the game as much as possible. I didn't need to do that much to do a video, and my video is probably actually a little scuffed. I should have just done gameplay instead of like trying to do explaining stuff. And like, I tried to give as much information on the economy as I could in 30 minutes while still having like a progression of a video. Can you talk about the info on the top bar? Yes. What do you want to know about it? I could talk about everything. For screenshots on the Steam page, can you confirm those are daily, monthly, or weekly? Well, so there are hourly ticks for 16 hours of the day, but the hourly ticks only apply to battle. And the economy runs on, like, monthly ticks are the big ones. The numbers under the pops and stuff. Under the pops? So under this 55, there are no numbers. Well, the things under there, that's food shortage, that's, I think pops are unhappy, that's a general's not in an army, that's estates are unhappy. This is, I think this is you have a personal union that needs attending to. This is buildings are unprofitable. I think that's buildings lack employment. That's cabinet unassigned. I don't know what that one is. That's, you have full diplomats. This is unused trade power. Man, someone's really letting Holland go to shit. I'm guessing you have the foundation of the game compared to other Paradox games. I know a Paradox reputation for the games being huge skeletons at the start. So I was mainly curious the foundation of the game. Yeah, that's mainly what I got to see. In one of my games, 100 Year War lasted 150 years. How does the UI feel? It seems a bit crowded compared to EU4. It's like kind of a little clunky. I left a lot of feedback on the UI. Like a lot of tooltips are missing and this type of thing. But like that's also because it's not completed. They definitely gave us like an early version to get early feedback and stuff like this. I mean, I did like 200 hours of QA for them. Is there an official EU5 Discord server yet? I think the official Europe Universalis Discord is just Europe Universalis. There's probably an official section for EU5 now, though. The total pop? The Typhoon? This is the total pop, 416,000. But there are Typhoons. I fear I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, it shows the total population you have and the population growth. Love you showing all the options and modifiers in your video. I'm gonna feast. I tried to like... There are over 90 screenshots on the... Actually, there are like 150 screenshots of that video. That's how many you've gained in a month, Connor. So that's your pop growth, or if you're having the Black Death, it's just like minus 30,000. How do peace deals work? Peace is similar to EU4 and CB. CBs are harder to get. You can get one every 5 years with your parliament, but you have to like invest parliamentary juice, kind of. The UI looks a lot like EU4. It looks like they haven't changed that much of it. I honestly like Victoria 3's like UI a little bit better than... Let's see if we can find some of the UI. Like the trade UI or something. Like, I like Victoria 3's menu, I think, more than this in terms of the menu aesthetic. A trade is, like, also super, super, super strong. Slavery, I think, is meta. I'm gonna go watch the video. Nice stream, y'all. See ya. Tell me the ledger is back. I think that this is the ledger. It's still got information that's not complete in it, but the ledger is searchable. Almost everything is searchable. That's something that's super cool in the UI. That, like, there are search bars everywhere. Except for in the tech tree, which is something that almost certainly on release I would imagine is going to be a thing, because a ton of creators left feedback on wishing that you could search. Mission trees? There were not mission trees in the version I was given. I don't know if they've made an official statement on them excluding mission trees, though. What was your biggest problem in the game, excluding things that they'll fix that you think they'll fix before release? So in regards to the economics, I talked about this briefly in my video. Something that I didn't enjoy about the simulation was that you as the government can collapse prices and then pay less for buildings, and you lock in that payment up front because you don't buy the goods over the course of construction. So you flood the market with lumber, and then you spend thousands and thousands of lumber, and you get this super low price, and it's locked in, but then lumber prices spike to, like, infinity. In terms of, like, the economics being hyper-granular, or, like, simulating what actually is happening, that was something I had a little bit of a problem with. But that's, like, I don't know what the fix is from a gameplay perspective. And so I don't think that, I think from a gameplay perspective it's fine. It just leads to a weird pattern where you collapse prices and then, you know, invest a lot. And I talk about that a little bit in the video. Let's see, what other biggest problems? I mean, like, a lot of the things are, like, not yet complete, so, like, it's difficult to comment on them. This guy made it out easy. He only lost 400,000. Oh, the Black Death, is that just arriving? What's the date? It's just arriving, just kidding. Do you take provinces like EU4 or states like Victoria 3? You can take provinces or individual locations. Did you play Mali? If so, how was it? Mali was a lot of fun. It was good. You, like, can kind of leverage your gold to try and catch up on other things. And you can kind of colonize a little bit as Mali, which is what I was trying to do. Slavery seems hyper meta. There's some, like, aspects of it that I don't really like. But I'm pretty sure, like, you're supposed to settle provinces that are, like, generally inhospitable, like the Arctic, and then just send slaves up there. Historically accurate, slavery was meta, yeah. Hey, Caracas. EU5 looks big nice. The pop tie is gonna make war hardships and good times so much more impactful. Yeah, that's another thing, is you, like, empty your buildings if you lose a lot of levies. Losing levies is really painful. Victoria is always the smallest game, but pop system and economy gets integrated everywhere. Yeah, not, like, full integration. Like, economics is more harmonious in, like, Vic 3, I would say. Because Vic 3 is, like, everything is tied down to goods, and in EU5 it's abstracted and you, like, pay gold, which is why you can get modifiers that give you discounts on things. Although EU4 has some discounts on stuff. Can you specialize your country in certain goods? Yes. I talk about this a little bit in my video. So there's different sections of the tech tree. The tech tree is, broadly speaking, like, it's going to have 3 different trees, and within each of those trees, there's 2 sub-trees, except for, I think, one of the ages doesn't have that, and they're diplo, military, and administration-oriented around a particular institution, right? Different trees will have access to different upgraded versions of manufacturing buildings, and so if you have specific upgraded versions of those, you're going to do better and be able to really hard export. Also, you get, like, output bonuses, not throughput bonuses, which are really strong. Like, in Vic 3 terms, it just increases the amount of goods you're outputting. So you can absolutely specialize in goods super, super hard. Is it possible to form historical dynasties? I'm not sure. How bad is the border gore? I didn't see much AI super border goring. Did you play Morocco? No. I booted up Tunis, and Carthage as a formable was not implemented yet. Actually, that's what I'm most critical of, probably. Generals love Savvy. It was super strong. I feel like with no announced release date, they might be thinking about releasing 2026. I mean, the thing is they're not going to announce a release date until they're absolutely certain, right? Building a massive canal through Korea is the optimal opening. That's rad. I don't know if it's optimal, but it was what we wanted to go for. We wanted to kind of have a grand plan unifying the video that was centered around control. They said POPs work in buildings now as a system similar to Vic-3. So let's kind of show it here. So you will have a certain amount of each POP type in a location, and they don't... The buildings have requirements, and if you fit the requirements, then the buildings are just staffed, basically. They don't track individual POPs associated with individual buildings. Instead, they track all the POPs of the location. So if I have 1,000 laborers in a location and I need 1,000 laborers, then all my buildings will just run fine. But they don't tie individual laborers down to individual buildings, which helps a lot with performance. What's the start date? April 1st, 1337. I understand that's the memeiest start date, but that's what it is. How's the replayability? I mean, I was having a good time replaying stuff. It probably depends on what you want to do, and like... I mean, like, different runs are going to feel a lot different, and there's going to be different stuff going on, and your tech tree... You can only research like 50 to 75% of the tech tree. And so the choices you make with your tech tree are going to inform your advantages, and your advantages are going to inform how you play, on top of you having unique tech for different given countries. So there's a lot of different playstyles you can implement, and different playstyles are going to be better with different countries. Like, going for colonization as Brandenburg is not going to be ideal, but like it maybe makes sense as Mali, and then when you go colonization, you get oriented around an economy that's more trade-like than like... tall, centralized, industrial-like, and so you get pushed in particular directions, and so the fact that I think it's engaging and you have different things that you're doing, that's one of my favorite things, is you can't research all of the tech tree, because that means you have to make choices. Tech tree where you get everything eventually is kind of uninteresting. Do you think the game will play generally until near the end, or only the first 100 years? I think there's more ramp-up time than, like, EU4, so I think it'll be played deeper, but I don't think... Played to end is, like, that's 500 years. That's a lot. What are some of the numbers, icons of the battle with the numbers 1 to 7? Must be something about the battle. I think you're talking about the battle screenshot. This is the die rolls for the battle. Oh, this 1 to 7? Those are, control groups. So you can put those to armies. These first 4 might be armies. So you can click the button to select the thing. But you can also set it to particular, I think, countries and organizations and this type of thing. Snowballing is way slower. Yeah, you don't feel super dominant in the first 100 years. Although the current system, personal unions aren't working as designed. So they just accept whatever thing you do. So all you have to do is beat like Ming in a war to PU them, and then you can integrate them in like 7 years or something. But I didn't do that in my video. I could have done that as Korea, and then just like at the very end just had Ming annexed, but I decided not to. I thought about it though. Did Ottoman snowball in your playthroughs? No, they got wrecked by Byzantium in a couple of my playthroughs. How's performance specifically late game? Well, there was a memory leak in the game. And it's, just to be clear, it's like an unfinished version of the game, like, and they knew there was a memory leak. I played like the first 250 years, and then performance became prohibitive for playing longer, but also I could only show the first 100 years, so it wouldn't make much sense for me to play super deep. Iron, which is an input for tools, fucking Pavloved me. Yeah, seriously. The Victoria 3 is like... also, like, I refer to stuff as buy orders and sell orders, but it's supply and demand in game. How do resources feel? Resources are really strong. because of some of the economic pressures that are on buildings, like that use input goods, are not on RGOs. RGOs have no input goods, and they are going to output stuff even if they have no market access. And so in the early game, when you don't have a lot of control, and you might not have a lot of market access in some places because your infrastructure is not really good, expanding the really nice RGOs and trading a lot is really, really strong if you have good RGOs. Do you feel restricted when you don't have certain resources? Absolutely. And your pops get pissed. A lot of your pops are like, if you're playing in Europe, a lot of your pops want sugar and they're mad about it. And there's no way for you to get sugar. And if you... like, your buildings will still run, but they'll be way less efficient if you don't have all the input goods. What run did you have the most fun in? Maybe... Milan? I played Korea like 3 or 4 times, like, the first 100 years. Because that was what won the poll. Too much of a noob to do a world conquest? Confirmed. It's impossible, is it like impossible to research the entire tech tree? It's impossible without some sort of exploit. There was a steel tech interaction in, that was really strong in espionage, but I left feedback about it and was nerfed. No, you cannot scale your economy to research faster, really. You can't dump a bunch of money to research faster. So yeah, it's just like, without some sort of exploit, it's impossible. Like, maybe there's some way to, like, provoke an event that gives you research points more and more and more. And if there is something like that, then yeah. Let's talk about Black Death, says Caracas. Let's pull up the Black Death. Oh, this is another cool thing, real quick. Your tech tree, at each age, you get to pick a focus, and this unlocks different techs on your tech tree. So you only get the techs on the tech tree for the focus you pick. And so this shapes your tech tree, which I think is really interesting. Did we skip over the Black Death? Is this it? Oh. There we go. What percentage of population was the worst you had? Like 66%. What was the lowest you had? Like 40%. Did I say anything about research? You get like 1 to 2 research points a month. Basically. 1 if your liturgical language isn't very good and you don't have like positive modifiers, and like 2 if you are really good in that regard, or maybe a little bit over 2. So there's a good amount of variation, but it's not like backbreaking. One thing was institutions spread to everywhere, which I don't think is going to be on the release version, but if that is, playing in like backwards places isn't like painful at all because you get institutions. Are they ping-ponging armies? I'm not sure what you mean. How did Flanders do in your game? I didn't pay that close attention to Flanders, not gonna lie. There are some... The Netherlands has some, like, trade bonuses and stuff like this. I looked at it. Are we talking about EU5? Yes, I played over 200 hours of EU5. How did managing the estates feel? It didn't feel like a major... it didn't feel like a major drain. Like, the estates kind of just were chill-ish. I didn't think that the estates were too difficult to deal with, and I think that giving them a lot of privileges is just kind of strong, because some of the interactions with Parliament are strong, and when you host a Parliament, the more crown power you have, the less your estates give you in terms of passing stuff through Parliament, and so I think having strong estates is actually good, and so since weakening the estates is what makes them mad, I think it's kind of a little bit straightforward, and you just, like, you just give, like, all the privileges that are even mildly useful to estates because you actually want them to be more powerful and happy. But that's because the parliaments were so strong. That's basically the way that you get CBs is through parliament. Does the New World get smallpox? Yes, like 95% of the pops die. They just get absolutely wrecked. Did you play any New World country? No. The New World, like, had some issues with it anyways, so they like kind of preferred us not to show it off. They didn't tell us not to do anything, but someone was talking about playing the New World, and then I was like, they probably don't want us showing the New World, and then, yeah. Like, Europe seemed the most fleshed out. Like, the Red Turban Rebellion, like, felt like it was a little bit buggy. Japan, like, their system with the daimyos, like, wasn't fully working, but it's important to, like, emphasize this was, like, a super early release version where they were just, like, it was mainly the framework rather than, like, this is the polished, like, this is the earliest that they've given access to creators and given people a look at in terms of the development cycle, I think. And so the question is more about, like, the underlying systems than, like, is XYZ thing, like, perfectly running. What's the benefit of having so many provinces on the map? Granularity and representation and simulation. Tactically speaking, maneuvering armies around is a bit interesting. Fog of War is kind of... when you have things where you don't know what's in any of the adjacent provinces, it's super spooky. And I imagine that PvP, the people get ganked a bit by, like, big-ass armies in the Fog of War. Are you gonna get oiled up at the 25k sub milestone? I haven't thought about it. We're close, but the growth's been kind of slow. Were there any nations in your game that became surprisingly powerful? India absolutely crushed and, like, colonized the other direction. Which I'm assuming by the time of release they make it so that doesn't happen, but you know, you're like playing Milan, and I was colonizing around Africa, and then like I see Vietnamgar, and then everything like everything to the east of the Cape is just like hard colonized by every like India country already. Does the New World get smallpox after interacting Europeans? Yes. We get Pope and EU5 revealed on the same day. Yep. EU5 definitely more important, but... Did you try the HRE? Very briefly. The HRE, like, it's difficult to declare wars in, but then you can get a war every 5 years through your parliament. The EU5, or the nations, like, blob up really hard in the HRE. Like, it consolidates really fast. How's Bulgaria hold up against Biz? I didn't notice. There's a bug that wasn't WAD that allowed Byzantium to just, like, annex all of, like, I forget if it was Bulgaria or what, in, like, one war. So, like, if you're playing Biz, you get to, like, super hard conquer stuff fast as because of a bug. What do you think will be the strongest start on EU5 based on your observations? Probably Castile. Based on current gameplay? Based on current gameplay or what I expect to be the case? I actually think Korea's pretty strong. Yuan, I was playing a Yuan run. I didn't get to the Red Turban Rebellion, but I think if you can avoid the Red Turban Rebellion, Yuan's unambiguously the strongest. What kind of resources are the most important? Spices, and gold and silver. How important are iron, coal, and other minerals? There's not really a huge demand for iron early on. I think iron and coal get more important later on, but I didn't get past the first, like, 250 years. Because eventually it got to the point where my game was getting laggy. So I couldn't play deep for performance reasons. I'd absolutely love to see you do a Netherlands trade tall run when you get access again. I actually thought about doing a Netherlands, like, trade-oriented run. But the HRE seemed like a headache to try and... For what I wanted to do regarding videos... Sorry, we're changing the music a little bit. For what I wanted to do regarding videos, I didn't want to... I wanted to have something that felt relatively isolated, so that's why I took a look at both Mali and Korea, because I wanted to just focus on the economics. And I didn't want to focus on the expansion process of uniting the Netherlands. What situations did you encounter? What was your experience with them? Like, half the situations I encountered were broken. But again, this is like a lack of fleshed out type of thing. I think Council of Trent, the Reformation, the Italian Wars, the Italian, like, HRE versus the other thing, HRE versus Italy was like, you could get a super huge trade efficiency malice, which I don't think was working as designed. The Italian Wars I got booted out of and then like couldn't rejoin, basically. And so specifically the situations, I was not, I think the Red Turban Rebellion was like bugged out. So like I enjoyed the flavor of the situations, but like their actual mechanical implementation like had technical problems. How's the economy harmed by war? Well, when you raise levies, they get pulled from buildings, and when they die, those buildings aren't populated anymore. I think even when you raise them, they're not populated anymore. But also, devastation occurs in your country, decreasing prosperity, which decreases your development growth. And you can lose control if you're like maritime oriented and you lose control of your maritime presence. That's kind of like apocalyptic. If you're like, if you lean on your maritime presence and then it gets denied to you, that's just like cataclysmic and you just like get wrecked. Did you try and keep Yuan together? Yeah, I think I was going to be successful too, because it was really easy to keep peasant satisfaction high, which keeps overall satisfaction high. I think keeping the satisfaction of the peasants high is just like super hard meta. Let's take a look at maybe this. How were civil wars like? Another country spawns, you fight it. Every time you take a province, it gets flipped. When you make enough progress that you just have an overwhelming advantage, they just kind of surrender. I actually like the implementation a lot. Do Ottomans actually win against Biz? I think 1 out of 3 times that I saw, they won. Biz is like in a weird spot. They start out with a ton of debt. So, I played a little bit as Biz. Surely you can avoid the Red Turban Rebellion. It will just be China just playing as the rebels. Even if you can't. Yeah. I mean, I think... Well, flipping Ming is actually probably just more straightforward than playing Yuan. And you have a better culture anyways, because you have more pops in, like, the Chinese culture than you do the Mongolian one. Is the Pope a powerful geopolitical force? He gets a lot of gold. I did play as the Pope, though, so I didn't know what interactions let you lean on people. How much of the game felt finished to you, approximately? It felt like I was given a framework. For those of you just coming in, I played over 200 hours. And that... going into it, I thought before I got access, I thought the game was more polished, because I got to play it in Sitges a little bit. I thought the game was more polished than what I received. I really like the underlying systems, but I also think that, like, we're maybe a bit of ways. I don't really know how quick dev time goes on that type of stuff, though. I left a whole bunch of feedback. I mean, I would say the game's mostly finished, though. Like, I think the entire framework is the big or hard part. Now it's just, like, a lot of, like, bug fixing and QA type stuff. Like, the overall framework is there. Very excited to see you continue a EU5 save in Vic 3. Will you ever do a mega campaign? I will almost certainly do a mega campaign between EU5 and Vic 3 if I make a bunch of EU5 content. I don't make any EU4 content, so it didn't make sense. A lot got lifted off of my UN taxes, yeah. What do you think will be the hardest mechanic to master in EU5? I don't know how deep the economics goes. I have to think through some of the systems. One of the interesting ones is that prices are not informed based on raw buy and sell orders, they're informed based on weighted buy and sell orders, where your market over-informs it. So if we have even buy and sell orders of lumber, but you're exporting lumber, then lumber is overrepresented in your market in terms of sell orders, because the buy orders are coming from other markets, and this actually drops the price of lumber below equilibrium. I have to think through what are the meaningful effects of that. I think, like, squeezing everything out of, like, the economics might be difficult. I also think playing around Fog of War is also going to be really weird on the military side. Open screens in full screenshot? Can I? Oh, we could get a little bit closer. Can you create a country like EU4 and is it random world generator? I think is almost certainly not coming back. I don't think Johan likes it. How dynamic are the markets and how hard is it to add provinces to yours and what are the benefits? So having multiple markets, it's actually complicated and I don't know what's best. Markets are relatively static. But if you do anything that gives you a big jump in market attraction, you're going to pull, like, the outermost provinces into your market, or lose them if the other person does it. So it is dynamic, but they're not fluctuating wildly month to month or something like this. There are two downward pressures on your economy, and that's control, but the second one is market access. Market access is, like, cataclysmically bad for buildings, but not RGOs. Because buildings, like, let's say we're in Dublin here. Hopefully you guys can see my cursor. That place has 100% market access. Let's say over here has 60%. When I have a building that is producing tools, it will produce only 60% of the tools. Now, they will also take 60% of the inputs, but that is super, super, debilitating. You don't pay wages, so you also don't have to take the wages out of that if you're, like, Victoria 3-brained. But, like, lack of market access is really, really negative on production in buildings. So one of the advantages to having more markets, because you can make more markets, is that you're going to have better market access, because if you only had one market here, between Dublin and Inverness, then someone would have really poor market access, but because you have two, you have better market access. The benefits of having one market is your overall price profile on stuff just generally looks better with a singular market. If you have already balanced stuff with one market, splitting that market into two markets is likely going to upend your economy. And that was my experience when making a new market after having one market for so long, turning it into two. The last 10% of development takes 90% of the time, then the game's not going to release until 2030. Can we expect you to become the largest EU5 content creator at all costs? No, but I have more hours than any of the other content creators. Maybe not Lathe, because Lathe, but some other people might get more access than I do. The economy in the States are basically the focus of the game. You could automate a lot of this stuff if you don't want to worry about it. But the AI doesn't build very effectively. Like, you can really, really outperform the AI on building. You can't really outperform it on trading. It just trades for the most profitable thing. And so if you specifically don't want to trade for profit, you put those routes in yourself and you lock them and then you automate the rest. Press F11. Oh. What's the end date? 500 years later. But I think the end date's on December 31st rather than February 1st. Or, sorry, April 1st. When are you gonna leak EU5 game files online? Bro, I have so many screenshots. I have like 1,000 screenshots. I've got so much stuff. I have like the entire tech tree. I have screenshots of every building. I can make a spreadsheet. I want them to send me the spreadsheet stuff so I don't have to manually input that. I've never played the game. I couldn't stomach playing 200 plus, and the sub model didn't sit well super with me, so it looked super interesting though. Well, you've never played this game because it's not out yet. You can make new markets, so it's like EU3 a bit. Yeah, you can make new markets, you can destroy markets, you can move where the market capital is. Specifically, right now you can't propagate market access across waterways that well, but I think that's not working as designed. But specifically moving markets to places that have good harbors might be something that's like a play pattern. When we were playing as... Oh, I almost tried to like move the map around. I can't do that. When we were playing as Milan, we moved the Genoa capital to Milan and then made a new market in Florence. So that everyone would have better market access. Great 30-minute video you made. Thank you so much. I think I appreciate that. I think I made a mistake not just doing 30 minutes of gameplay and instead trying to do 30 minutes of trying to show off the economy and like give as many screenshots as possible. I think like from a creator perspective this was a mistake because I could go back and make more videos using gameplay but like in the background, but like the what I have playing that in the background is just probably god awful. I was hoping for an EU4 style economy, not this Frankenstein. I'm sorry to say that the economy is much more complicated than EU4. Ludi's Tile says he has at least 200, so he's somewhat close to ours. I think Ludi is fibbing. I think, I told Ludi that I was gonna play 200 hours, and then he was like, "Damn, bro, that's crazy." Also Ludi had no. Yeah, Ludi just doesn't have 200 hours. I can't say why I know. New post from Chicago. Nice. How much content does Georgia have? Georgia's big. I don't, I think they have some unique advances. I think they have like 8 to 11 unique advances, if I recall correctly. I might not. I looked at it. I took a video of who all has unique advances and which ones. So I have that for myself. Did they say the release date? No, they did not. To finish earlier, I thought about playing the game, looking forward to starting fresh in EU5 and not having to buy 40 DLC. Yeah, the subscription's kind of alright if you want to play. Maybe we get in the game. It seems like you guys are cool with the QA, though, and so far you guys are keeping pace, roughly, with my responses. How do countries with few pops compare to countries with a lot of pops? How easily can you grow your population? Well, right now I think slavery is really meta, and you can just import pops. And then you can accept their culture, which frees them if you need non-slaves, and then go back to not accepting their culture again to import more. So, although you can only have slaves not of your religion, I think. So pops are definitely important. Promotion speed is more the gating factor, though. So like, let's take a look. So promotion speed, if you hover here, or if you look here, plus 20, that's how many peasants are promoting up into other groups. Looks like he's losing a lot from something. Is the Black Death going on? No. But you're more gated by the qualifications and like how many laborers you can get and how many burgers you can get in an area than you are like with the raw pops generally, because you'll have the peasants but not the other stuff. But yeah, if you don't have enough of the other stuff. Do you think it'll be possible to do 3 bounds in EU5? It depends how many of the exploits they remove and stuff like this. Right now, it's really easy to annex Ming. How much content does George... Oh, wait, we already want this. Bro, who wants an EU5 economy? Yeah, I don't know. Hey, Savanka, how's it going? You excited? I'm excited. Is there indentured servitude? I think the slavery mechanic is not particularly nuanced. It was EU5 all along, yeah. When do you think it's coming out? I can't comment specifically on it. I could say that Paradox generally doesn't like releasing right before a summer or winter break, and they don't like releasing right on top of another release. And so that's probably going to very heavily determine when it's released in terms of which windows, potentially. But I can't comment too specifically on it. I mean, I don't know exactly when. I know some periods of time when it's not getting released, which is why I can't comment on it specifically. Svanka is excited. Of course. I'm like, I had a lot of fun. I definitely had more fun the first 150 hours than the back 75 hours, but I think that was just because, like, I've never no-lifed a game that hard. Please don't be too expensive. I'm guessing it's going to be either the price of Vic 3 or $10 more. We have CK3 China, so it's probably not going to be this year. I would be surprised if they released it at the same time as CK3 China. Would be, yeah. When you say around another release, what else are they releasing? Well, like, I mean, it's like, it's I could say it's not going to be in June, or I'm very confident it's not going to be in June. They wouldn't release it right on top of Vic 3's expansion. I don't think they'll release it right on top of CK3's expansion. So, like even if they were, even if they finished, like, right at that time, I think it doesn't make sense to release it then. Or even after that, because that's, like, right before vacation. But, I do have a video up, if anyone wanted to watch, on EU5. Do you think the pop system is better than Vic 3? I like this system better because it's more performative. I don't care about tracking individual workers per building. Hopefully you guys can see my mouse. And what this does is it just says there are 10,000 laborers in this place, and you have a certain number of buildings that require X number of laborer jobs, and you either have enough to staff everyone or you don't, or like this type of thing. And the granularity between buildings, like 25x's the amount of pops you have to track. And I don't care enough about the granularity for that to matter. It does mean you can't have worker ownership. There's no wages in EU5. But that there are wages is something that's, like, less important to me. You know, the trade system, I think, is better in EU5 than Vic 3 right now. But Vic 3 is getting a new trade system. When's next EU4 expansion? I don't think they're getting another one. Is control basically autonomy? Do we have a control map mode here? Control is, like, I think one of the singular most important things, and I focus on it a ton in my video. But I don't think we have a... Here, I'm pulling up something that has control. I think I can show this. I believe I can live stream show parts of my video. So I'm gonna find a section of my video that has control. Okay, so here's the control map mode. The way that control works is that the money that goes to your tax base is multiplied by control as a percentage. This white stuff is 100%, so 100% there. And so it really affects your tax base. So you can see here, we are taxing around 770 from both the burghers and the commoners. And our trade income is like 1,800, but our trade We probably are spending like 800 on trade maintenance, so it's only like 1,000 net from trade. But the negative modifiers that you experience from it are like less levies. The money that is not going to the estates instead goes to rebels, so it's kind of like autonomy. CK3 will have China, yeah, I think December or November. Based on what you've said on how finished, it is 2025 seems very unlikely. I don't want to comment too specifically, but before I was thinking maybe we... I don't want to comment too specifically. If they their development speed would have to be really fast for us to think to see like an imminent release. I think we could see the mouse perfect. Thank you so much. This is Svanka gets it, where I'm like stressing about like, can you guys see what I'm trying to show? And then like Q1 or Q2 2026. I can say before I went to Sitges and got like access and looked at stuff and this type of thing, I thought Q2 2026 was my estimate. What do you think about an 1836 mod for EU5? Well, so you can see here, look at Japan, all these little speckles. That's the daimyos risen up in like whatever interaction they have or special situation. One of the really cool things is that the daimyos, this is one unified Japan at the game start, and the daimyos are not, they don't have any territory. And so what I think about a mod for 1836 would be really, really sweet is that you could have companies be these non-territory entities. I also think that Victoria 3, relative to EU5, in terms of systems, probably doesn't really demonstrate exploitation and dominance of the colonialism as well as it should, and EU5 really does. Because in EU5, there's trade advantage. I think that's the name of it. But basically, in every market, there's going to be one of the people is going to trade first. So here's trade advantage. So here, Goryeo, which is us, which is Korea, and Ming are close. But whoever has the most trade advantage, all their trades go through first. And so when you go to these third world areas and you acquire like a big amount of trade advantage, which is like Great Britain would be able to do well in like an 1836 mod, Great Britain, all of their trades go in first. And the value of trades that you extract is based on the marginal difference between how much you traded the good for. And so what that means is that Great Britain gets to export all of like the cotton from the Americas back to Great Britain to work in the manufactories, and they get all the best price, and then America might have less trade advantage, and then with that less trade advantage, they get a smaller margin. So you really get to like, it's super winner takes all in terms of extractive ability based on your ability to pressure an area economically. And so I think that plays really well for like, that's one of the things I'm most excited about. I was bummed I couldn't play into like the 1800s and that deep. Why not just watch your whole video on stream? Because then people won't watch my video. Or the people on stream won't watch the video, I think. We could. Also, it's really awkward to watch yourself explaining something while... like this type of thing. I think I'm also going to do an expanded version of this video that's like several hours long. Or like 2 hours long. That's kind of what this would be. What things do you research? Are there things like production methods? Yes. So I think that we're commenting down here. So you can see here, we have like paper workshop, printing press shop. These are buildings that have better PMs that are producing the same type of good. But you have to make a sacrifice in order to go here. You can't research everything. It's like 50 to 75%. So a point that we are making here is that if you have this extractive colonial empire, that involves going down a different tree that has the manufacturing. And so if you have manufacturing, you play to like a different sort of strength. Where you're going after like paved roads, more established control, more like a build tall type of thing, and trying to export and have an advantage in manufacturing. And then if you do colonial, you're trying to get the trade dominance, right? So that you could the trade advantage, so that you can control the trades here like really, really strongly. And like just seize those big margins, which also it's like winner takes all on the. I think the most value you have is like from doing this extractive thing, but it's like one person gets it. Thoughts on debt deficit spending in EU5? It has the same stimulating effect, but the government economy is not as well connected to like the overall economy as Vic 3. I think what you're supposed to do, though, is you can collapse the prices of things so that it's minus 66% price. And this is like a pretty fundamental game pattern, I think. And when you do that, if you have a really good price on your government buildings that you're paying for, just taking loans is like fine, I think. I'm not sure where I show it, but when you have a super cheap prices, yeah, taking a bunch of loans to get minus 66 price on buildings is like super strong. But then like that's like less about deficit spending than the other stuff. I also didn't experiment with stacking interest rate modifiers. You have to pay more interest in EU5 than Vic 3, like a baseline. And I didn't stack a bunch of those modifiers to maybe be able to abuse that. You can like borrow money and lend it to other people at better interest rates if you're a bank. In the Discord ping, they wishlist now, later in 2025. They took it off from the ping. Oh man. They said that it was 2025. Don't worry about basically you got some sort of contract, or don't worry that you basically got some sort of contract or whatever that you could show Project Caesar, but name it the video EU5. I mean, we all know it's EU5. Didn't call it like that for basically, if they won't mind. Wait, what? I was not allowed to say it was EU5. I was not allowed to confirm it was EU5, but I was allowed to keep saying it was EU5, which is like weird, because I'd been saying it again. You promise you'll watch the video after again on stream? I mean, I'll show individual things, maybe. We could try and find the price thing. This is actually, like, one thing I kind of, like, didn't like about the economics. You could also, like, there's also, like, different sources of building cost, which is, like, a way in which, like, I think the economy is way too big and explosive right now, and they're gonna nerf it. But it's way too easy to just steamroll and make money irrelevant. Might be bad manners, but reacting to other content creators with their permission could be cool. I might do that. I think I'm planning on asking some of them if I can use their gameplay to just do video essays over. Because, like, all these, like, screenshots coming at you, like, bruh, you're gonna do a video essay over this? Come on. Do texts have different costs? No. But you do get a discount on text from a previous age. But the discount's flat. And like, if it's 2 ages behind, it's the same discount. That's something I didn't leave feedback on that I thought about. Maybe I'll leave feedback on it. It should be... You should be getting a bigger and bigger discount. When and where did Portugal and Castile start colonizing? They can basically start right away. Because you can explore right away and you can colonize right away. It starts with pre-Black Death and post-Black Death economic strategy in the early game. There's definitely post-Black Death like types of strategy, and there's inter-Black Death strategy. Here is our population, what happens during the Black Death. And one thing that we did was we closed the cities. And so, that's like one of the ways in which you can interact with, like, the thing. That seems pretty strong. Oh. Not like this. So, there's stuff you could do, like, during it. You see minus 25% production efficiency. That's a crazy bad modifier. And that, like, economically hamstrings you. When you're in recovery mode, though, like, building new buildings stops being valuable because you have... all of your buildings have vacancies, so adding more buildings doesn't do anything economically. So you actually shift gears and you build more stuff like roads, because roads don't require employment. Okay, thank you for the follow, Big Nice. Oh, Zach! It was 2 years, or 2 hours ago. Not like this. I really have to fix that. I fixed it, and then now it's broken again, where I don't get a notification on the resub. Thank you, Zach Attack, if you're still here. Your video is extremely good, by the way. Thank you so very much. I was a little bit worried about it. I was trying to show as much information as possible, and I think I should have gone for vibes instead of information. Committing genocide and demography engineering possible. If you're not the same religion, it's really easy to enslave people and then send them somewhere else. I don't know about actually killing off all the pops, but if you just keep conscripting from one area and just running it down, you can kill pops kind of well. General's on the Paradox early access list now. I think if I get access to Vic 3 stuff early, it's just going to be because I got integrated into the pipeline from EU5. And I think it's almost entirely that Johan likes me, because I don't belong... I'm not an EU4 content creator, and I'm not big, so that I got early access is almost entirely on Johan liking my, like, Tinto Talk coverage, I think. And so now if I get, like, Vic 3 stuff, like, because I would actually get really late access to Vic 3. Can you turn it up to 4x speed, please? This is actual EU5 live? Is General's playing EU5 live? No. I have a video of my gameplay. I do not and could not play live. A lot of content creators have videos up to 30 minutes. That's so many screenshots? Yeah. I have over, like, in total, there's like over 120 screenshots. And I have a couple of these, which are just up for like 2 seconds. And then I'm like, pause if you want to read all this. Thanks for the videos, banger. Sweet. I'm glad you guys like it. So there's nothing stopping you from rushing Aztec gold right away? Well, colonial and naval range. You could start colonizing in that you could get the Azores and this type of stuff, but you don't have enough naval range to, like, cross the Americas. So... vibes might have been good, but then likely would have been more similar to other content creators. That's true. I maybe stand out a little bit, but, like, also, like, the economics, like, probably changes by the time my video, by the time the game releases. Like, I don't know, I left feedback on the price collapsing thing. I'm, like, not a... like, the more I think about it, the less of a fan I am of it. But that might not be a thing by the time the game releases, and that's a huge gameplay pattern we're trying to do in here. Another thing is urbanization is important. Only towns and cities can build the buildings that are production buildings that have, like, inputs and outputs. And so expanding that is going to be important. Here, the yellow is towns and the green is cities. You got early access because you're handsome? Damn, it must be true. Very information dense, we could get the vibes elsewhere, yeah. But I also could have, like... well, I can't show all these screenshots, is the thing. I can't show all these screenshots of mechanics. And so I wanted to show screenshots of what a lot of the mechanics did. Like, so for example, what a city does, I can't show this. I have like 1,000 screenshots that I've taken from the game. So like, I know more than but I can't show screenshots that I have, but I can show screenshots that I showed in the video. And so, yeah. They said, what is the max length of the video you can make, but nobody said anything about max number of screenshots. Yeah, this is 100% it. At the very end, also, the music goes so hard. I love the soundtrack so much. The soundtrack, I didn't get to talk about this. This is one of the most exciting things. The soundtrack responds to what's happening in-game. When something bad happens, like you get decked, it gets more intense, and it responds to your APM. So, like, if your actions per minute increases, the music gets, like, it gets louder and faster. So, like, if you just, like, finger roll, like, changing, like, map modes, it, like, the music changes. It's so, so dope. We love the spreadsheets. Yeah. Have there been any multiplayer sessions? A couple people played a little bit. But, like, at the very end here... So if you just automate, there's just chill music all the time? Yeah. This was one of my problems when recording clips, it was always chill music. Because it was just me having the game paused and like thinking about what I wanted to say and this type of thing. Is that shown in the video? No, the music that of my capture wasn't loud enough. So I just playing raw soundtracks over it. Hello, happy Friday. I got access to an early version of EU5 in order to make a video, but keep in mind it will be an early version, so there will be bugs and issues. I have 30 minutes. We're going to talk about economics. To start, I had to go back and re-record an intro that was under 9 seconds. Actually, it didn't need to be that short, because I could have decreased the size of all the segments of all this. But I had a longer intro, and then I had to scrap it. I kind of scrapped it a little bit early, though. I knew I was going to have to go back. But I tried to show a lot of these map modes, too, which I thought were really exciting. I, like, didn't show enough of actual, like, selected provinces and showing, like, the buildings in the provinces, I think. I don't think I showed that once in the UI. So, like, You'll become the biggest Paradox streamer in no time. Stream a game a day. CK Tahoe, exactly 5. I feel like that's not the way to go. Oh, this is such a cool building. It was just very flexible. Yeah, getting a bunch of trading power like early seems so strong, but it also is really strong on someone like Korea that has a bunch of really good resources. Maritime presence is also, like, interesting. Like, you can connect via the ocean, and you can connect better once you get a bunch of, like, stuff. Or once you have a bunch of boats patrolling, this type of thing. Do you see any similarities between Vic3 and EU5 development team? I haven't met the Vic3 development team. Shared thought process or anything? Obviously, they're the same studio, but not the same team. Well, one's in Sweden and one's in Spain. Yeah, and they are... The impression that I got at Sitges was that they are very, very segregated. Like, they don't even know what the other ones are doing, really. So, yeah. They get early access. There's a liturgical language. How cool is that? Yeah. On the map mode. There is. So we had, like, Chinese as ours when we were playing Korea. But I only, like... I'm pretty low on the totem pole of Vic3 in terms of, like, interaction with developers. Which I think maybe changes now, because I've been folded into, like, more of, like, the apparatus/infrastructure, but just got off of EU5. Will you leave the VOD online? Yes. Let's resume the music, though. The numbers are control, right? Depends which map mode we are looking at. This is the control map mode. Right here. Oh my god. I'm trying to get exactly... So this is the control map mode. Record the video 4x speed and tell people to watch it in slow mode. It was specified that we could not do that. I clarified. They also were going to say you can only show 30 minutes of gameplay, and that pause was not going to count. And then I was just like, bro, if that's the rules, I'm just going to make a 6-hour video. I thought you developed Victoria 3. I was the only one making content for it for a while. I still didn't get early access. Their primary metric was average views per video. And that is not a metric I performed well on. I just released 3 videos a day for a while. I haven't been anywhere near that amount on the Victoria 3 grind. It's a travesty you haven't met the Vic 3 team. I've talked a bit with Lino. Lino comes into my stream sometimes, and I've talked with Alex on the Discord, but I haven't like met the. I went to Suez and I met the EU5 team. So, are there any in-game statistics that show how much GDP or any country has? No, it just shows income. It doesn't show GDP. Can't believe I'm actually unironically excited for Paradox game in 2025. I'm very excited about this. Like, I'm slightly burnt out right now, like right now, but I've literally, my brain is like EU5 like mush right now, because in the past, like, you can look on the Discord, the link's down below. I put it in the screenshot section. I played 227 hours in the last 14 days. Like, just like zero, like, I'm dreaming in EU5. I'm like thinking in EU5, like, type thing, like entire brain process is warped. Victoria 3 YouTubers, new EU5 videos. I built an insane tall economy. Yeah, basically. EU4 YouTubers, new EU5 video. I conquered all of Europe. I mean, like, it was so easy to conquer if you just abused the personal unions. You could just super free take territory with personal unions on this version. So I could have annexed Japan and all of China in my video if I wanted. I think because all your videos, Victoria 3, are paused screenshot while talking. Yeah, like 100% is, maybe that's another thing. Also, because I don't have a business email in my description. If Paradox starts giving you previews to Vic 3 and maybe other bigger games, you'll get the views. Hopefully that was your breakthrough. Maybe. I think that my Vic 3 content is a little niche. And also, to some extent, like, I like reanalyzing the economy, and after a certain point, it's like I've kind of said what there is to say about the system. And there's not, like, I don't want to release videos saying the exact same thing over and over. And some of the, like, the economy stuff is interesting, but, like, it hasn't changed in a while. I haven't covered trade because I thought trade was, like, didn't work very well. But now I will deep dive trade and try and figure that out and crack that nut when June 17th, when that comes out. Is gold silver supply an important factor in the game? Jewelry is a input. It's an input on marketplaces specifically. I think there are ways to get jewelry that don't involve gold and silver, but the better ones involve gold and silver. This is literacy. And so, it's pretty important because you want to have a lot of marketplaces, you want to trade a lot early on. If you don't have any good resources, it's less important that you be the one trading. But if you have, like, spices but you don't have gold, you really want to get gold. Remember that they also need to float insane numbers of monetary surplus. Yeah, that's how, like, in my opinion, that's like the #1 easiest way to tell if a creator like does the economy right is like if they in their thumbnail put plus an enormous amount of money. Like that, like it's actually like bad to do, like actively bad. I mean, it makes for a good thumbnail. I mean, actually, that's probably just. It's probably not a metric of how good you are at Vic3 economics. It's probably just a representation of how bad you are at doing thumbnails. This is probably the reality. I wanted to get a lot of these screenshots, like what development does as well. So I managed to sneak a lot of screenshots into the thing. Was it allowed to put 1,000 screenshots in the last 10 seconds of video? It was not explicitly prohibitive, but it was expressed that that would be frowned upon. Because I said that that's what I was going to do. I said, oh, at the last minute, I'm just going to have 15,000 screenshots. I'd be able to do, like, AARs of, like, 5 different runs from the screenshots or whatever. How much taxes can you collect? Can you compare how much country... can you compare how much buildings a country has? You can compare income, but you can't compare GDP. So, yeah, this is maybe something to leave feedback on. Being able to compare the raw GDP would be really nice. But raw GDP is also less important because you have trade efficiency and tax efficiency, which are just free money modifiers that apply to these things. So, like, when you're getting a free money, like, you have tax efficiency. We have negative tax efficiency here. When you're getting a free money juice or malice, like, money's getting created out of nothing. So if you have, like, 20% tax efficiency, it's like, for the purposes of, it's like as if your economy is 20% larger. Can you make more control over an island rather than the rural parts of your mainland? Yes. GB instead of Scotland, they prioritize lowlands of France? Yes. It's actually probably easier to get control in lowlands of France as England, just in general. Can you do an East Frisia run? Maybe. I don't have access to the game anymore. I had 2 weeks, and I played 227 hours. Super detail-oriented and nothing like it. Keep it up. Thank you. A lot of generalist Vic3 content is kind of aimed at experienced Vic3 players, so it's hard to attract a wide audience with that. Yeah. And it's, like, also, like, not, like, eye-catchy either. It's like, bros, I calculated, like, equilibrium prices as a mechanic that's relevant to Victoria 3, and you, like, use game theory. It's like, bro, who wants to, like... That's not a general thing. Trade is going to be very insane in 1.9, I think. Yeah, I think it's going to be real strong. It depends on how much... Well, yeah, I think trade is going to be bananas. I'm super excited for trying to do a drug run. I'm, like, all in on the forcing people to send me back the drugs that I'm sending to them to get them to actually consume the drugs. And for so long, that's been a thing that, like, content creators try and do. Like, I made a drug empire. I made everyone addicted. And it just doesn't work because of how consumption works. And it's going to work now, I think. Control overseas or, like, an island? It's a little bit hard to do it overseas. But if you go through a few enough sea zones, you can. But overseas is a lot harder than, like, along the Mediterranean coast. Because it takes a lot more proximity juice to travel that. Let's see if we can maybe find a thing where we're talking about proximity. Or proximity map mode. So I think this is the proximity map mode. Oh, that's dev. But here's a proximity map mode. So eventually we get to the point, actually, here maybe we can show it late game, where we have proximity over to that peninsula to the left. Here, exit the thing on the left, dude. Exit the thing on the left. Okay, so you see, here, you can see over this bay, we have more control there than we do, like, down here. Because it's easier to propagate the control there. The thing is the market access doesn't get propagated the same way, and you have to do market access overland, but I think that's an oversight. Like, I think that's a bug. It's something I left feedback about. Is the spreadsheet done? No, I want them to... I've requested a text file of all the buildings and PMs so that I can import it. I have a screenshot of every single building. I really don't want to do 400 buildings by hand. Marketplaces are OP in the early build? Yes. Super, super OP. But I think trade just should be powerful in the early game because control, as control is worse, which it starts out really bad in the early game, taxation's a lot worse. But having low control doesn't negatively affect RGOs and trade as much, basically. Because they said when you do a treaty that gives you a good, you earn the difference of prices as government income. Oh, that's going to be abusable. Yeah. So you'll just be able to, like... What's the best way to spike the price of something really, really high? I mean, in general, you run higher prices than the AI if you're playing properly. So getting anything would actually just be kind of good. But also, if you can collapse the price of something, you can... Well, you don't want to decrease the prices of stuff in your market because it has a depressing effect on your market. Especially, but if it's something expensive because you don't produce it, you don't care. But if it's something that's expensive, you probably have a really profitable opportunity to produce it. That requires some more thinking out. How the graphs are in the game? There aren't too many graphs that I really felt that I could think of, really. I think that was like less of a factor. Do we zoom out here? I think a more zoomed out like image would be a little bit better. Yeah. So here maybe it gets you an idea. But I thought that this was super cool. And control is like the sharpest deviation from EU4. And control is also something that I think like Vic3 like lacks. The ability to project power should be like stronger like the closer you are. But like as the game goes on, it gets much, much easier. And so by the time you hit the 1800s, it should be a lot easier. Can you run a no peasant economy, like super industrialized tall play? I think so, but I didn't get to play that deep into the game. Also, I played countries with kind of a lot of pops. I heard the new Pope was American. I haven't seen the news on it because I've been live for a while now. When I talked about supplying gold and silver, I meant whether you require it to mint coin. You do require it to mint coin. Minting is not a very large portion of income, though. We are producing a ton of gold and silver. Our trade income is like, I think it's not like 800 or 900 when you take out the trade expense. And our tax income is 770. Our minting is only 100. It's really not a lot. When it's coming out, do we know a rough time frame? The devs haven't given a time frame. They copied EU5s on Generalist files on Generalist PC. I thought about putting it on a thumb drive. I could have put the entire, all the files on a thumb drive, and then just put my computer in offline mode, and then boot it up, but I didn't do that. I briefly thought about it. I didn't really strongly consider it. 227 hours over 2 weeks is 16 hours a day. Yeah, I slept under 6 hours a day. And I ate in front of the computer. So, like, I literally, like, I've never no-lifed a game harder. Generalist is too specific, not like this. I think 1.9 World Trade is going to change too much on its own. It's just going to make everything easier. Prestige goods are probably going to be uber broken. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be excited to see next week. I just realized how many provinces this is. Holy hell. Yeah, there's so many provinces. There's like 10 to 20 times what EU4 has or something like this. Does it have a ledger? Yeah, the ledger's right here. The ledger doesn't have as many like tabs and stuff though, I don't think, as EU4. Is control or proximity going to be implemented in Vic3 anytime? I haven't heard anything of that sort of thing. What do you think instead of Mappy? I think I like market access better than Mappy. I think that they... Well, maybe not. Look, my problem with Mappy is that it doesn't represent... It doesn't represent distances, like, in a way that, like, makes sense. Like, if I have coal in a province that's right next to a province with iron, I should be able to make steel in either one of those really well, because they should have access to both cheap coal and steel, and that doesn't get represented properly, and that can't get represented really that well without doing an enormous, like, calculation because of the way they want markets to be, which is nationwide. With EU5 here, you instead are gated by market access, which is regional in nature. Try to see if we can find a screenshot. So how far you are from the center of the market is instead a very significant drain. I think that, I mean, so what happens is if you have 60% market access, you have 60 on buildings, not on RGOs. You have 60% the inputs, 60% the outputs of the building. So it's like 60% of a building, which is like really substantive, but it does make it so you want to be close to the market center, and you get rewarded for being close to the market center. I suppose there's vertical integration in EU5, like building tooling workshops where you have iron gives you a bonus. You don't get a bonus if it's one province over, so I guess there's that. But, like, in Victoria 3, you don't think of, like, infrastructure and connection, and you do in this game. Is proximity affected by port size? So there's 3 different calculations. There's proximity, there's control, and then there's market access. I believe the ports affect, control and proximity, but not market access. And I think they should affect market access, and I think this is a bug. It's something I left feedback about, but I'm not sure if that's WAD. You can only earn prices with exports, otherwise the other side gets it. Are you talking about Vic 3? You only earn the prices with exports? You're talking about EU5. You get the marginal difference no matter which way it's going. Control is kind of like core provinces. Yes, but there's also cores. Cores give you plus 20 to your control cap, though. So cores give you control. But even if something's cored, if it's way overseas and far away, you won't have much control. How many buildings are there? Over 400. But a lot of them are unique buildings. Non-unique buildings, maybe 200 or something, 150. How hard is blobbing? It's a little bit... Well, in the version I got, it's easy to annex some people with personal unions. But the value you get from provinces is gated by your control, and it's hard to have a lot of control early. And so this is an anti-blobbing mechanic. Also, economies are a bit faster than what they should be. And as a result, you get to kind of do more. But like right here with this control, it's kind of like you only get manpower equal to this percentage of the province. So if you conquer a bunch of territory, you only get like 20% of the manpower, this type of thing. It's very significant downward pressure. It's much harder to blob than EU4. Mappy is so bad, not gonna lie. I mean, I think it's like... I think it's okay with the framework they have, but the framework they have is not good for representing, like, the cost of moving goods. Actually, you know what? I think that the freight system I suggested is, like, a way to do it and would work. I have a video on that. I don't know, in my opinion, markets should overlap, and part of the building ought to go one market and probably the other, but it's probably too hard to implement. That sounds like you just, like... are massively increasing the calculations, yeah. How does China play with that many markets? Do you import goods from one market to the other internal market? Yes. And when you import, it only goes to one. Is it at least automated? You can automate all of the trade. With this, I'm mostly automating trade. Let's see if we can find a video where we're looking at trade. I think around here we look at trade. So here, this little thing means that we're automating trade. So we can lock in a few trade deals ourselves, and we have a total of, I forget what it's called, trade power, I think. We have like 234 trade power, where maybe have like 5 of it locked in on specific trades, and the rest of it is just automating for the thing that makes as much money as possible. How much feedback did you leave? I opened like 30 threads or something. The amount of times you said feedback on that is insane. Well, I have like no-lifed this game for like over 200 hours the past 2 weeks, yeah. Pope dropped. Hopefully not again. They just got a new one. What kind of buildings is there just because there's so many resources? Well, there's a lot of different resources, but there's also different versions of buildings that produce the same resources. There's a lot of unique buildings. I don't think we look too much in the building tab, really. So it's going to be hard to find an example. God, I'm going to have to make screenshots of my own video. I think we were looking at... this isn't what we want, but we are kind of in the construction menu. But, like, the market village is something that can produce, trade capacity and trade advantage, and it's for rural areas, and in cities you have marketplaces. Thank you for showing your country, you're very welcome. With so much feedback, he can take over Feedback Gaming's channel. I like Feedback Gaming, he's very pleasant. Do mercs come from certain nations or pops, or are they generated out of nowhere? They're both mercs from internally to your own nation, and also mercs from other people's nations. From what I know about Clausewitz, a location having multiple markets would be hell. Yeah, I don't think that can really be implemented that well. But you can see here the market village, all the red areas are places that are cities or towns. And the market village can only be built in rural areas, so... I think we talk about another building right before this. We might be able to find the building menu. No, I just completely skip over the UI, but here's a rural cathedral. Again, can only be built in rural areas, so there's like different types of buildings for different things. A little bit. Not a super hard amount. How far have you played? I think my deepest run was... like late 1500s, and the biggest reason I stopped playing was because performance. The later ages, something I comment on in my video and that I really like is it seems that the economics changes from age to age, and what you care about and focus on changes from age to age, which I think is dynamic and interesting, and it also changes based on how you have developed your tech tree, because what advantages you have and things you want to lean into and identify as important changes based on what you do. So colonization and trade are kind of linked together, and production and control generation are kind of linked together to some degree. And if you choose to be good at both, then you're probably going to have a weak military. So you have to decide what techs you're going to sacrifice. And so if you're a place that can't colonize very easily, you probably have to do more of an internal economy-oriented production. And a big driver of that is this trade advantage. Whoever gets to decide the routes, or what happens, whoever has the most trade advantage does their routes first. They will get to do all their trades at current prices, and then new prices are calculated when Ming goes. And so, because you get it based on marginal difference between prices, you're locking in way more value when you have more trade advantage. It's a bit winner takes all-y. So if you have if you don't have advantages that lets you get a big trade advantage, then you instead want to go production, and you are going to generate money more through taxes. So you are looking to get production control and also taxes, whereas with a more trade-oriented economy, you're looking for colonization stuff, which allows you to establish trade advantage overseas in key areas and get like trade hubs and this type of thing. And so what you do is dramatically different. So you can build like Brandenburg, this internal production-oriented economy where you don't really care about trade advantage all that much. And then like it's dramatically different than playing the Netherlands where you like care about stuff overseas and this type of thing. Is trade like Vic 3? No. There's a huge difference in trade, in that trade is super unlocked relative to Vic 3 because of how prices are calculated. Prices receive a weight based on if it's your market or the other market in terms of buy and sell orders. So if I'm producing 100 lumber and I'm exporting 100 lumber, if I'm producing 200 lumber, consuming 100 of it, and exporting 100, because I have more of the sell orders local to my market than I do buy orders, even if I have 200 buy orders and 200 sell orders, the price will actually be lower. And so this allows for there to be more marginal difference between prices, so it allows trade to be a lot like more prominent, because if you have a market that is producing a lot of a thing, even if it gets equalized buy and sell orders, the price will still be really cheap, and this cheap price allows trade to occur. So there's not like in Victoria 3, like economies tend to get really autarkic because there's not really value to trading. Does France have a mission to conquer or become emperor of the HRE? There were not mission trees in the version that I got implemented that I saw. How does development work again? I think it's just showing something about agriculture. Development gives... I think we might talk about it here. Development gives a whole bunch of bonuses. Like, it's like one of the longest things in terms of... Okay, so development gives maximum RGO size, which is a really nice modifier, especially on places where you have really good RGOs. RGOs in general are stronger than like buildings, so the resources are kind of stronger than buildings. It gives minus building cost, extra migration attraction. It makes it so that you get more control. The distance to capital makes control a lot easier, but not just for that province, but also any province that connects to control through there. And stacking a lot of this modifier is really strong and allows you to really get a lot of control, which allows you to fully realize your tax base. It gives you more population capacity, which is important for actually growing the pops, as is a food production. It now gives also flat food, I think. Was a change that was going to be implemented based on feedback, mainly because Italy like just starved to death every game. It also gives some other modifiers down here as well. Do you think that they'll bring back multiple start dates? No. Have you played the British Broadcasting Company? I have not. I hope colonization isn't too fast. I mean, it's kind of slow before the Second Age. Sounds exactly like my type of run. Trade, colonization, production, no military. Holland, here I come. Yeah. That's kind of my play style. And then, like, you get really cooked if you don't invest a little bit into military, I think. Like, if you don't really get manpower unless you have barracks, which is a building that requires research. So, for what it's worth, my own taxes colonization is really slow at the start, and then it becomes more cascadingly strong and once you get more money and land. Well, it costs exponentially more to do more and more colonies at once. Key areas are key, you could say. True. How equal is the world, you say? Could a number one GP come from anywhere like Indonesia, or is it a bit more like Vicky where it's hard to beat the starting power? Something I didn't show was absolute monstrous urbanization in India. India hyper-urbanizes. India might be, like, the strongest region. Currently, they don't have institutions, like, locked in the old world, really. And everyone gets institutions. I don't know if this is working as designed or just, they haven't decided on a mechanism for restricting or this type of thing, but, the East doesn't have difficulty accessing institutions, and it has a ton of pop. It just gets slower tech because its liturgical language is not as good, generally speaking. Although Chinese is kind of okay. Its liturgical language isn't as good for getting tech, but you're not, like, you do not feel that throttled at all. If we ignore the standard paradox of their games usually being content lackluster in the beginning, what's your opinion on the game long term? I think the framework is so good. Like, I'm super excited about the framework. I mean, there's a reason I've been covering EU5 a lot, which is I think EU5, like, economics, have, like, more moving parts. It's not, like, as elegant as Vic3. Vic3 is really elegant because everything's accounted for. Although there are, like, some free money modifiers and this type of thing. I mean, there's some, like, leaks, but, like, there's, like, stockpiles. There's, like, so many things that, like, should be in Vic3 that aren't, in terms of thinking through the economics. And I think that, it also has a framework for, like, just kind of doing everything. And I'm not, like, committed to the Victorian era time as well, so, yeah, I don't know. I'm super bullish on the game. The only thing is, like, performance wasn't the best for me with the early version, which, of course, has issues that are getting resolved, and, like, they, like, work to do those. If the game's just, like, unplayable in the late age, that would be kind of annoying. What does development mean if the question isn't too cryptic? Oh, this is what it gives you. Oh, no. How replayable do you think EU5 will be? Super replayable. I also think some mods for the game are gonna go so hard, because the like, a very important mechanic is, like, you can have countries that don't have land, and so, like, a Victorian era mod for this, you would have companies as countries that don't have land. How does terrain feel, and what does it affect outside of military? Oh, bro. Let's find a screenshot. We're looking for a development screenshot. So you see these areas, the 21, the 14, the 21, a little more zoomed in than we'd like. These are all mountains. It is harder to develop territory that is, I think we even swap back and forth between the map mode. No, not here, not this part of the video. But there's a very strong correlation between terrain and what you can do because of the modifiers to development growth. And we start with, like, even development everywhere. And then by the end, like, all the mountains and hills. So, like, the regions that are super dark are, like, mountain/forest. And then the other ones that are a little bit less like are just, like, hills or this type of stuff. And the stuff that is flatland is all where our best development is. What's the best liturgical language? Latin? Yes. It also determines how much pop can get to a place. It's really, like, mountains is very significant downward pressure on the number of pops you can run. Does EU5 have more content or flavor than Vic3 right now? Probably. With, like, more formables, like, way more nations, more releasables, and custom tech for a bunch of different trees. Yeah. And like we also saw like with what we played, we saw a lot of like unique events with like Mali and Milan. Not as much with Korea, but we did see unique events for Korea as well. Do you recommend investing in Paradox Interactive on the stock market? No. But that's because I have a philosophy for investing, which is I like investing based on the numbers of the actual industry. So like price to earnings ratio is like important to me, because I don't want to have to watch my investments super closely. And some companies get really overweighted because of hype or because people just generally like the companies. And if that's the case, then if sentiment rather than price and earnings are informing the valuation, then that means you have to keep track of what the sentiment is on the thing, and I prefer not to do that. So that's one of the reasons I've been critical of Tesla stock for like a decade, is because if people start hating Elon Musk, which this is kind of what's happened, the price of that stock's going to tank. And so I don't want to feel like I have to track whether or not people hate Elon. This type of thing. And the thing is with video game companies or like companies like Hasbro or this type of stuff, people who like the games buy the stock. The stock is overinflated relative to the price to earnings ratio, which doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad investment, but it means that it's an investment where you have to care about and follow the sentiment of people, because the price of the stock plugged into that or built into that is people liking the games and liking Paradox and this type of thing, which is going to drive the price, which means that like if the price is going to go up, then it's a good investment, right? But the thing is, the price is going to go up not because of their earnings, but because more people are going to want the stock because they like the games and this type of thing. And that's generally not an angle I like to invest in as much as like really understanding the thing or the industry or this type of thing. Don't like Victorian era apart from Vicky. She is the era. What's your release date prediction month? I know some periods in time when it's not going to be, so I don't want to comment on what I think it might be, because I think I'm not supposed to. I can say generally speaking though, Paradox doesn't like releasing something right before their winter or summer break, because then they can't put out fires if there's an issue. And they don't like releasing stuff right on top of each other. So it would be less likely to see it released right on top of another major release from a different title. Have they released the system requirements for EU5? I don't know. No. I was told it would run on 16 gigs of RAM, but that 32 was really preferable, and I was struggling with 24. But there was also a memory leak that I assume is fixed by the time the game actually releases. Yeah, I talk about farmland, grassland, woodland, forest. Yeah, basically the farmland is the best. Forest is like... Forest and jungle is like kind of bad. What informs starting development? It's kind of flat based on area. They've done it... They did it based on like some historic analysis, but it's like... It's how should I say? It's not like it's different for every single location. They just have a more generalized thing based on nation and region. Bro is not buying Tesla. No. Which isn't... That doesn't mean that Tesla is a bad investment as a stock. It just means that the investment... so the Tesla's price to earnings ratio, like, relative to, like, Ford is, like, 20x. Which means that relative to how much money they earn, which after this last quarter, it's like way, way worse than that. But which means that for every dollar they make, their stock is 20 times the price of like Ford's, which to me is insane. But that doesn't mean that Tesla stock's not going to go up, right? It just means that its price is not informed by its earnings. Just like, so like Bitcoin, is an example of something I do not want to invest in, because Bitcoin, the valuation is basically entirely on sentiment. Which doesn't mean it's not going up. It just means I have to follow and understand what people are going to do, and that it has more to do with the psychology of people than on, like, hard goods that are actually getting produced. What happened to Elon? I thought that people loved him. People did. People had super hard-ons for Elon. I've disliked Elon for a while. What the fuck is this UI? I don't know which screenshot we were looking at when you typed that. I think he was, I think Orpheus was being sarcastic, to be honest. Stellaris 4.0 was a mess, not like this. Most likely to release in September or October. I think, yeah, releasing it right before the summer break is not something that Paradox would generally want to do, although I'm not commenting on whether or not I think EU5 will do it specifically. Just generally speaking, they don't like to release something right before. I think Jealous is watching Atrioc. Wait, what? I'm not watching Atrioc. Regarding my I know who that is. Like, vaguely, I've probably watched maybe a half dozen of his videos. But, like, I haven't watched, like, an Atrioc video in, like, a while. The entire game's UI, brother. This looks like slop. I have to admit, I like the Victoria 3, like, panels and user interface more. This was also... I don't know how much this improves before release. But given that this is, like, what they went with for their screenshots for the game, I assume that it is not going to really be any drastic changes to the UI aesthetic. I do prefer the UI aesthetic of Victoria 3. Ripped my 16 gigs of RAM, waited on EU5 for nothing. What do you mean? I think the minimum requirements, I think, are going to be 16, but I think it's going to be strongly suggested you have, like, 32. I was thinking when they announced the game, they would give us a date. Guess I was wrong. There's not very much incentive to give you a very precise date. Because people get really upset if you give them a date and then you move the date. And they don't have a lot to gain from giving a date. Other than it's, like, soonish, based on them announcing it. I would bet General's life savings that EU5 is being released early 2026. It's not a very large bet. I like the character portraits. The character portraits are a little wonky. I didn't show any character portraits in my video, other than the one in the top left, like this. I didn't show any of this because mine were bugged out. But I assume on release it's functional. I think that's also because their compatibility for, like, Vulkan was better than DirectX 12. Because they run out on Vulkan, and, like, this type of thing is, like, something that gets smoothed out, like, closer to release. Where's the map art? Imperator looked better. I don't know about that. I think it's comparable. One of those screenshots, I think, wasn't even on high res. Like, we think this looks bad? Man, I need to upgrade my PC for EU5. This is a disaster. Kinda knew this was coming, though. They're like, we're gonna simulate everything. They didn't give us a time frame or a year, which makes me think it isn't coming for months and months. Again, they don't have much incentive to do it. One thing that's cool is that... Oh, hey, this is the country we played. This isn't our screenshot. I was gonna say one thing that's cool is you unlock new values as time goes on. You unlock like free trade versus mercantilism in the Third Age, the Age of Reformation, I think, which is pretty neat. Is there something that tracks how urban a region is and can you compare different cities by their size? So there's urbanization map mode, which tracks whether or not something is a city. And there's also this map mode. This is the development map mode. Okay, so this is a thing that is kind of like how tall is the city or even the rural area. And then there's an urbanization map mode. I'm trying to see if we can find it. That's control. So that's how much we can get out of it. This is the urbanization map mode. So what's showing is stuff that is yellow is a town, stuff that's green is a city. But you can't really compare them based on size. There's population map mode. I don't know when in this video we use the population map mode, so it's hard to show it. I think it's fairly similar map-wise to Imperator, but I probably slightly prefer Imperator. Imperator's, like, globe made me nauseous. I was really not a fan of the like, globe thing. I think Imperator's maybe the prettiest map in strategy gaming, so fairly similar is really good. Yeah, I think it's similar as well. Probably just run at the lowest settings if Victoria 3 is any good indication to squeeze the maximum. So in my video, I'm running it on the lowest settings. I also don't show too much of the map. Like, I don't show too much of the raw map. Like, I'm almost always using a map mode. But I think, like, here... No, not an ad. Not the feet. Everyone's gonna think I like feet. I'm getting foot ads. No, not like this. So you can see like some of it, but a lot of it just kind of gets scuffed out in the political map mode. I understand already EU5 is a complicated version of Vic 3. Vic 3 tracks things much more precisely than EU5. EU5 has made that sacrifice to have more layers of mechanics, I think. And, so we might see less emergent gameplay patterns from, EU5 than Vic 3, which is one of the things that's harmonious and interesting about Vic 3. But I think probably just makes for a better play experience, generally. Countries themselves have no distinguishing style to their outlines. It's like Vic 3 and CK3 without any style. You mean to say that, like, the vegetation doesn't change based on where you are on the map? I know it changes based on what your level of vegetation is, but, like, all the tropics look like all the tropics. I mean... Is that what you want your map game development to, like, really focus on? Is to, like, make sure we have, like, a certain type of tree here and a certain type of tree there? On what level do they track population? The smallest thing is locations. Yeah, they're not tracked based on building. So here you can see laborers and just how many are available. And all the laborers, yeah, it's just based on location. Well, they get tracked based on culture and religion as well, but there's not a granularity in the buildings. Feet, not like this. Show me a man who laughs at defeat, and I'll show you a weird shoe salesman, basically. Coincidence you get feet ad on Thursday? I think not, basically. You think centralization is always going to correct, or you can do decentralization ones? I think decentralized might even be better early on, or at least traditional economy. This is something that I kind of mentioned a little bit, which I thought was really cool. So here, like, traditional economy gives us more RGO output, but increases the price of buildings. Decentralized. I'm not sure I like the vocals in there. Decentralized. Oh, we have somewhere with our societal values that we are going for. I think it's the third one we... I'm not sure where it is in the video. But if you have a bunch of different cultures and a bunch of different and a bunch of people that are rebellious, I think decentralization could be okay. I think it was okay on Mali. Because the thing about centralization, what it gives you in terms of benefit is a lot of control. The value of that control, if you're really RGO heavy, is not really that... It's not as high as it would be. If you're just doing RGOs and trade, it's going to be significantly lower. I'm trying to find the part where we look at the thing. So when we get our first parliament, but we don't spend too much time talking about it. Oh, here it is. So here we can see decentralization gives you a state satisfaction equilibrium, which is a really strong modifier, and monthly rebel growth minus. And what you get is crown power, which I don't even think is that good. I think crown power should probably be buffed, and distance cost of capital. Distance cost of capital is less relevant if you're doing a bunch of resource-oriented stuff. I think it's still good to start pushing for centralization early, but that's just because it's going to be good later, rather than it just being good early on. I think it's not good early on. One of the selling points of Paradox games is that they aren't very performance intensive. I mean, they generally aren't on the GPU, but they are on processor. I don't think EU5 is going to have as many of those third-order effects that make Vic 3 sim interesting, but it'll probably make Vic 3 a lot more intelligible to people. Yeah, another thing I like about EU5 is you can simulate or you can automate, like, everything. Which means if you don't want to touch the economy in, like, an in-depth way, I think that you don't really have to. It's way less efficient. But I think a lot of EU4, like... I think a lot of EU4 players are just going to automate the building and just be like, alright, we're done. A gorilla riding a giraffe would be sick. My favorite patch of Victoria 3 was when they had the baguette centaur. What country would you say how big a medium-sized country is? What would you say is how big? I think this here's Korea's medium-sized. Maybe Korea's big. Korea's not massive. Like Castile and France are bigger, but I guess Korea's kind of big. Maybe if you cut off Korea here, that'd be medium-sized. That's maybe like, I don't know, 50 locations? 40 locations? Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of locations. I guess I wish we had more screenshots of other countries. We, like, only have screenshots over Korea, so I can't really show as much. Actually, but we don't have just our video. So Provence here has got, we can't see how many locations, but they got like 20 or 30. Milan has, I think, like 15 to 20 at game start. Byzantium is like somewhere between 20 and 40, I think. Like, I looked at EU4 screenshot this morning because I was like, maybe we'll play EU4 afterwards. And I was like, bro, there's like 10 provinces in Castile. What is this? Yeah, you can kind of see some of these things having different buildings. There's so many provinces here, or locations. Japan's definitely big. How about Sweden? I think Sweden's pretty big too. I don't know how big their locations are, or how spread out their locations are. Oh, here's a pretty good view of this. Can we just F11 this? No. So this is not even half of the Mamluks provinces, but you can see how many are here, or locations. This might be an obvious question, but are you going to do an economy guide before release? If I get early access again, yeah. Probably even if I don't, but to some extent the video I released this morning is like a guide. But, like, in the grand scheme of things, Japan is pretty big. Or the Ashikaga shogunate. We have a zoomed out map of kind of a lot of countries. I know Lambert has it on his video. His video opens with it on the backdrop. Oh, so does ours. So, like, Golden Horde is big, Hungary is big, Castile is big, I think England and France are big, Sweden's probably big, Lithuania's big, England's big, Mali is big, Ottomans are probably mid-sized, but they get big really fast. Biz is probably mid-sized to big, Mamluks are probably big, the Sultanate of Delhi's big. Japan's big. Korea's maybe big. Yuan is big. Like Wadi El Natron should be a set of oases instead. Bro, I don't like when there's some big ass, like, to be honest, I don't like when there's some huge, like, things on my map that, like, are not actually big geographical features because of how, like, zoomed out you are. I think it's, like, distracting. But you literally have this map for, like, the entire world and every, like, discrete location. And it's being, like, generated based on their, like, the overlap of terrain, vegetation, and climate. So nothing pops on the map. Yeah, I mean, in the sense that Egypt's gonna look like Tunis, yeah. But then, like, once you're in non-Mediterranean desert, it looks different. But, like, all these, was it farmland, like, desert provinces, or I forget what exactly they have. Mediterranean, farmland, desert. They all look similar to each other. I mean, you want them to, like, paint each one of these individually rather than having them, like, generated, when procedurally generated, when the, like, the amount of urbanization is updating and dynamic. I don't know about that. That would be so much. I think there are also a bunch of unique buildings that get like created as well. That seems like it would be so much work for an art team to like 3D model, not just like so for like the city background here. This is layered based on like whether there's a river flowing through it, the climate, the topography, the vegetation, and the urbanization. But it's like it's a layered piece of artwork. That's my understanding of how they did the map. Right? But you want them to like actually draw out that map. Does the amount of peasants decrease as the game goes on? I don't know. Like your proportion of peasants ought to decrease, but the overall quantity of peasants probably goes up. Do you just want landmarks like in EU4? You want pretty 3D model of the pyramids? Yeah, I do. I would not want a big ass model of the pyramids on the map. I do think they should make the cities and towns smaller. Then you can't show urbanization on the map, which I think is probably... It's a feature a lot of people like. I don't really care about it that much. But I think, like, if you have a system where it's going to dynamically update... There's also even an oasis right here, man. There's, like, lakes that are represented, too. Oh, I think the Americas terrain is actually also even distinct, because I think it's bugged right now. Someone had posted, like, funny screenshots of the Americas. So, like, yeah. Or maybe it was their buildings. It might have been their buildings rather than their terrain. In my video, I'm also on the lowest settings when I'm looking at stuff. But, like, you want something distinct when you're, like, this zoomed out. I don't think we're zoomed in on the terrain map mode much. Like, here it's showing, like, what's mountains and what's hills. A little bit. We're not in a terrain map mode, though. We're in a political map mode. Is there an option to keep diplomatic map mode on, even when zoomed in? Yes. There's actually so much options and customizability. It's really, really nice. That's not an oasis, that's the Red Sea. Okay, my bad. The location literally named Oasis in Arabic doesn't have an oasis. Yeah, but how big was the oasis relative to, like, the area of land? Did province shape it better in Mayu and taxes? Interesting. How many provinces does Mayan taxes have? Because there's so many locations. Like, there's so many locations here. I don't know, we don't really... I feel like I also don't spend that long. I also, like, this is, like, maybe kind of, like, not even a discussion that I'm that well informed on, like, in terms of caring about it and, like, paying attention to the arguments on it. Oh, here's, we're looking at we're talking about population map mode. Here's it. And so maybe, like, I don't even think I can comment, like, that substantively on, like, terrain. I think I'm like never gonna be in the terrain map mode anyway, so I just don't care. I spent like most of my time not in the political map mode. My union taxes has 4 times the number as EU, but I think it's less than... Oh, it's so much less than EU5. I think EU5 is more than an order of magnitude of difference. I think it's like 20x. I have it written down somewhere. It's a lot, though. I guess we're zoomed in on political map mode here. Oh, we must have the setting... We have super low settings. Our settings might actually be never show terrain map mode. That's actually probably in our settings, because we kicked everything to really low settings. You'll notice there's no textures on the water, but that's because we're on super low settings. I mean, if you're looking at my video in terms of what the game looks like, I was running super low settings, so like that's not... I don't like the aesthetic of the UI though, like relative to Vic 3, but I do think the UI is not going to change substantively, considering they like they have it in screenshots or whatever on the sales website. I just worry about performance as a Vic 3 fan. They made a lot of cuts from like Vic 3 stuff that are like really performative. Like, they don't segregate pops based on building, it's just based on profession. Does anyone else have some more, like, kind of last-minute questions? I feel like we're just talking about terrain a bunch here. Trying to find the, No, back there we could have showed it. So, rather than having nobles per building, it just has all the nobles in a location. Is it GPU intensive? I don't think so. I think it's mainly a processor and RAM. Do you think control is too easy to increase station-wide? Maybe a little bit too easy? I don't have the context of the later periods of the game. I think that you spend a lot of time trying to increase control in the early game, but as you increase control, what this means is you can spread out more. And I think that really early on, you actually you play more feudally, and you like release subjects rather than controlling the territory. And then you can expand and actually control the territory yourself and control it. And so it's more of how much you can expand and have it be like really useful. I think maybe it's a little bit too easy to get control. Games are just generally a little bit too easy because strategies around them, or on release, they're generally a little too easy because strategies for optimizing just haven't been discovered yet, and then as they get discovered, it's like, yeah. Was super low necessary for performance? Kind of, but there's also a huge memory leak in the version I got. Like, I had to restart the game every 3 hours. And I expect that to not be there on release because it was an early access version. And so I also I only had 24 gigs of RAM, and as I understand it, 32 is going to be preferable if you're also trying to run stuff in the background like OBS. And what GPU did you run it on? I have a super old, like 8 gigabyte GPU. It's like 12, 13 years old or something. Thanks for all the info. I can see where my life will disappear. We'll do more follow-up videos on EU5. I can organize a bunch of questions and have it more organized in the comment section of my video. Can you show the Netherlands coastline? I cannot. I don't have a screenshot of that. I also don't know if anyone played the Netherlands. Flurry might have played the Netherlands. I think he probably played Florence though. I can't show anything. I don't have access to the game anymore. I'm gonna go watch your video carefully now. Yeah. Do you look forward to it? Or does that preview make you eager? I was eager for like 10 days, and the last 4 days felt grindy, but I also played 17 plus hours every single day. So like I don't know if it's my 17 plus hours or like I think like logically I think I'm super eager for the game and I want to dive into like some of the stuff more and think through some of the stuff more. But right now I actually want to go outside and touch grass. That's probably what I do after I end the stream. You did take a nice drive to the park now? Yeah, basically 100%. Yeah, this is exactly where my mind's at. I want to go outside and touch grass. I actually haven't been outside in 2 weeks. I literally have not left the house in 2 weeks. Like, culminating in this stream. So I think I'm actually going to take a walk when I'm done with this. How important is expanding and what situation specifically? I think expanding is really not necessarily that important, because, like, it's more about building your power base early, but then expanding gets important later. I think what's important physically changes throughout the ages. Every 3 hours is still a lot better than the latest CK3 drop. Yikes. Can you talk about counselor jobs? Ooh, a little bit. So in this run, we used promote development around the capital. You use them for integrating provinces and also changing culture, which is needed to get cores, and cores give plus 20 control. So this is also a major throttle on early expansion because you only have 2 counselors to start. And so if you expand a lot, then you can't do something like encourage development or encourage societal values. So like I kind of like using one of my guys to progress towards innovative early. Just because of kind of what the strategy is around these. And if you're using one to do that, then like, and you're using one to integrate, and then you're going to need to change culture too. The thing is when you release a subject and then you incorporate them, you gain all of their stuff incorporated. And so this is another reason to be more subject-based. So early on, I think also that the cabinet positions are one of the reasons why you want to have more of a feudalistic position. And so, yeah. And then, what else? In this one, we promoted migration. I think that's generally not a very strong one. You get new cabinet actions that you unlock through tech as well. Some of the ones that you get if you're a hegemon are really strong. Like you can incorporate entire areas, or you can promote culture in entire areas, something like this. Yeah, we did a lot of incorporation and promote culture. And then a bit of promote social values and a bit of promote development. Are there many opportunities to change RGOs, like move potatoes to the old world? I know there is some changing of RGOs. I didn't get to see any of it with my gameplay, so I don't think it happens in the first 250 hours. I'll watch your video now. Godspeed. So, I think we've kind of caught up, and we're not receiving too many new questions. If you do have a question, we are going to do a follow-up Q&A video. I guess I will post a link to my video that I had dropped here. If you guys wanted to go watch, you can go there now. You can see I was trying to figure out how to do what I was doing for the thumbnail. But I'll post the link. And other than that, you guys have a good one. I'm going to go outside and touch some grass. Bye-bye, everyone.